Oh, I know what the problem is. Oh, I see. The base canvas resolution is what you actually want to pick up, and then the output scaled resolution is how you want to output it.
Correct.
And I should output it like less, I think, so that when you stream it, it's not so bad.
Man, I think that you, with your connection, you should not. You should be able to stream. You should be able, like, your connection is crazy, man. Like your connection is like for 10 people, you know.
Yeah, true.
I think you could stream high HD in like 7 TVs, no issues.
I definitely like this MacBook. 2880 by 1800. Ah, wrong resolution. There we go. Yeah, I do have a Logitech camera that I could plug in.
See, that's an up. That's an up. I mean, you have your webcam too, right? You can use either your webcam or your DSL, like whichever works.
Yeah.
Or the webcam. Yeah.
You about setting out the link soon, huh?
I already sent it.
See who jumps in. Want me to send it out to a couple people now?
Sure. And I also posted the link for the stream for everyone to check the stream on Facebook. So
I'll just let them know that we don't know.
we start in 5 minutes. Yeah, your output looks super clear now. A lot better than yesterday. Someone was having, I don't know if it was also the time, like it's obviously Saturday night, people are online, but it was definitely choppy. I don't know if it was for you, I was barely able to hear Charish and Dan a couple of times.
Yeah, I don't know whose it was. How do you get your second camera to just show yourself? Like, do you open up another program, or do you call yourself?
No. So like I'm just adding it as a display. No, as a what is it? A video capture device. So I just click.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I just add another video capture device in the sources.
Nice. OBS is the shit, man. You gotta admit, like that's fucking.
Oh, it's
good.
great, man. Man, I'm telling you, gotta check Streamlabs OBS. I mean, it's the exact same thing, but like the only thing that I like is that it lets you stream to Twitch, Facebook, YouTube. Like you can do like 5 streams at the same time, and it's just made more for streaming. Like I mean, it's optimized for streaming better than OBS, but it's pretty much the same thing, I guess. Yeah, but I like it. I like to have both of them. It's good.
Oh, looks like my USB camera is working. It's pretty powerful that I can be rocking 3 fucking monitors, 2 video audio, like all this shit all at once.
For sure, man. That's my same
Ugh.
setup. I love it.
Oh, I like my camera better on my MacBook than my Logitech, but whatever. It's perfect, man.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so too.
I wonder where I'm gonna put me. I might put myself in the bottom corner, covering up who else is here, and whoever talks, it'll get big for them anyways. You know
Yep.
what I mean?
Yep. I do. That's what I do.
Oh, maybe I'll put myself in the top right corner. No, because I'll be there twice.
Yeah.
That's kind of fucking weird.
Can you? No, never mind. I can do that myself. But
Oh yeah, I forgot about the alt. Hold alt. Bada bing, bada boom. Nice. You're thinking you're gonna stream it to FaceTime and YouTube?
no, I'm just streaming straight to YouTube, and we have 1 minute before we start, so we'll see.
If I stream it to FaceTime, I might get some fucking idiots on there.
If you stream to where?
To FaceTime, I'll pull all the idiots, and I'm not sure if I want to do that.
To Facebook, you mean?
Yeah, but they don't have a link, so
Yeah. That's kind of a messed up thing to say, but it's all good. I have 0 viewers right now, so it kind of works out. That works.
oh, you're on right now.
Yeah. We've been on just for the last 7 minutes. Just
Oh,
so
yeah,
you
well, I
know.
meant what I said too. So.
Yeah, you're good.
Ah, live video. I'm gonna break out the champagne here in a second.
Yep, that's the point of this whole thing, man. Go for it.
All right. Make sure I got the right streaming APIs and shit. Facebook Live. I never know if I should redo the stream key or what. Because, like, did it change?
The stream key?
Yeah, you need to get, like, that stream key,
Oh yeah,
persistent stream key.
yeah. That's another thing I like about a stream, OBS stream, and like it seems to just you don't have to ever add the stream key again ever. You just create the name of the video, and like it does everything for you. Like it's just optimized for streaming so well. And like the thing I like is that remember the last time like I did have to open like a window in YouTube, and now you told me that in your OBS you can do it without even opening your browser. Now I can do it the same way. It's just nice. Let me see.
All right, I put that in. Preview broadcast with a stream key or period encoder. First, I gotta go live on OBS.
You get.
There we go. I've got one error. No. All right, I'm gonna grab my drink.
All right, let's do it, man. Oh man.
Damn, liquor store across the street is so expensive.
Is it more expensive than normal or just regular?
It's more than normal.
Oh, really?
People,
That's messed up.
I mean, there's one that's like 8 minute walk maybe, but then there's one that's 3 minute walk, and
Yeah.
I go to the 3 minute walk one, and it's like you can't. You know how champagne's always so cheap.
Yep.
The cheapest one there is $16. The cheapest one.
Yeah.
And it's like, damn, I can get champagne for like $7.
Yeah, man, that's messed up. They know that people need the liquor. It's funny that liquor is categorized as an essential business industry during this time, you know. So all liquor stores get to stay open.
I heard it was essential because
Alcoholics.
alcoholics, if they go dry, they could die.
Yeah.
So thank you to the alcoholics out there. Yes. Let me send this link out to a couple of people more.
Sounds good. You think that would have been tough? Like if we didn't have any liquor. I mean, a lot of people. It would be pretty hard on a lot of people that don't think are alcoholics. Like you and I are not alcoholics, but like it would have been tough on us if we have to go like a full 2 months without a single drink during this period.
Yeah, I think it'd be good. I'd lose some weight for sure.
Yeah.
So let's see if I can get.
Is that a Andrew Yang shirt?
Yeah, I like the shirt just because it's kind of diverse. You know what I mean?
Yep.
I knew he wasn't going to become president, but I liked his style anyways. I thought it was good. I'll send this to my Fenwick crew, I guess. See who bites.
Yeah, for sure. And if not, let's just have some drinks, you and I, and let's do some more of these questions, man.
I've also got a couple friends from Colombia, the country I'm trying to see if they can get on.
For sure.
All right, sent out. Fenwick. So yeah, we'll have to get some
Faux
some
show.
people. So what are you drinking? Margaritas?
No, man, I had this amazing sparkling water cucumber flavored thing. So I'm just having that with some vodka. Man, it's so good. And
Oh
then
damn,
like,
that does sound good.
yeah, I have this friend from Amsterdam that taught me how to make this cocktail. Like he normally just adds frozen berries on top of it, like a couple frozen berries, raspberry, blueberry, and like a slice of cucumber. Oh man, doesn't get more refreshing and delicious than that, man. It's really
that
really
does
good.
sound-
Yeah, if you buy the good vodka and the good sparkling water or whatever, fantastic. Are you just gonna go straight up for champagne, or are you adding a touch of orange juice to that?
Just straight up champagne.
Brunching legitimately.
Yep. So your girlfriend works at a hospital that has 12 people in her ward tested positive.
Yeah, at least that's what she texted me yesterday. I think I don't know how many there are in her unit, but she was telling me that she's nervous, and so again, I've had this conversation with a number of people, but I keep telling her, it's I'm trying to put myself in her place, so because I keep telling her, if you don't feel secure, like she doesn't trust the hospital measures because she knows they just don't have the right PPE. They don't have the right, they're not ready to deal with something like this. So I was saying, just quit, and we can get by on my salary. You're a nurse. When things normalize, you'll be able to find something else. And there's no judgment. No one will judge you for, not exposing yourself to this thing. You have a little kid. Like I mean, it's, um, it's a choice that she can make, and we can get by on my salary for sure. So I've been telling her that, but she's, I think that she doesn't tell me this, but I know she feels a responsibility. They need those nurses. They need that help. And it's just what they told them is that this is the beginning. Next week is gonna get bad, and the week after next, they know that it's gonna be real bad in Chicago, like real bad. So with that comes a lot of anxiety that she's having. And 12 nurses already tested for COVID positive. She hasn't been tested. But then there's those little things, man, that like, having a little cough or anything gives you a little bit of paranoia, man. Like yesterday I had a cough, and it was probably just from, I vape a little weed sometimes. And I was thinking, it was probably related to that, but I got nervous. I was like, I probably have it. Kristen probably already has it. Like she gave it to me, or I gave it to her. Like, I don't know, man. And so it's just a weird situation all around, man. Like this is bizarre,
Looks like somebody joined in here.
How do I do this shit? God damn it. What in the fuck?
Oh, dude. I think DJ is running. Man, finish your run and join later, man. No need to join right now.
I think it's Bluetooth. What the fuck is this?
I don't think he knows that he's on.
Yeah, can you hear us, D?
God damn it.
Because he just messaged me and he said, like, I'm gonna run, but I'm gonna join for a little. I'm like, dude, just finish your run. You can join later if you want.
Oh, they're not on. Oh, fuck.
So DJ's in Oklahoma, right?
Yeah, man. Dude, that dude Dan, it was pretty cool.
Yeah, I just invited him right now again. He was my college buddy, like for I guess the senior level undergrad courses.
There is DJ.
Oh, hi, man. Hey, what's going on?
You're on a run, right? How are the streets, man, in Oklahoma? Is people out and about, or?
People never been out or around here to start with. So nobody's here. Shit.
Dude, what's the weather? Wasn't it like 100 degrees like 2 days ago?
It was 100. It was fucking 100. It's crazy, man.
Is it nice today?
It's nice. Look at that. Look at sunny and
Damn.
it's yeah.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah. I went for a run right now. Actually, running to Ellis, and then I'm gonna come back. It's 6 miles there, 6 miles back.
Oh,
Damn.
Wow, dude, you're doing half a marathon today.
Yeah.
Damn.
You're crazy, bro. Dude, you wanna you can finish your run, man. Join later when you have a minute. Like this might be too kind of hard.
Afternoon type of deal.
Well, we might be here for a little while, but if not, we might do one later. Not a big deal, but you might want to focus on that run. We don't want to distract you if you're in the middle of it.
I'll join back.
Sounds good, man.
You guys are doing okay? You're not there yet?
Not yet, man. We're hanging on. We're hanging on.
All right, man.
All right, brother.
I'll talk to you guys.
We'll talk to you later, man.
Bye.
Later.
Bye.
Hey, I swear that Hangouts used to switch screens with whoever's talking to. There used to be a setting for that.
It does, and so if you, that's if you double click on yourself, like on the little square at the bottom of the screen or whatever, if you double click, it should start doing it like that.
Okay. I guess we'll try it out when we get another person in.
Yeah.
So double click on yourself. Got it.
Yeah, someone brought up that mentioned that I didn't know how to do it, and then someone in the last stream we did like last Sunday or something explained that, and it kind of worked.
Oh shit! I lost you.
Yeah. All right, man. I'm gonna ask you some of these questions to get the conversation going.
Wait a second.
And see, some of this might be interesting too, man, because you and I know each other, so we can actually ask them.
Oh, there you are. Somehow I lost the feed. All right, we're good.
All right, man. Ready? Okay, so what am I the most ignorant about?
Damn, I'm dark. Let me think. I don't. Let's see. I don't think you're ignorant about a lot of things.
Yeah, I
I mean,
have...
you know what life is like. You know what life in Mexico's like, and U.S. is like. The poor, the rich. Like you've lived every aspect of it or been around it. I mean, you claim. I don't think you claim to know things you don't know. I don't think you're really ignorant about a lot. Honestly, there's nothing that stands out.
Yeah, it's a difficult question, right? Because I could say the same about you. Like, I don't think you're either, man. Well, I mean, that's a good thing, right? Like, that we have to think about it to begin with. So,
Praise us both.
yep. Do you ever think I stir up drama because I enjoy it?
No, I think that I do.
I was about to say, I think you do a little bit. Not bad, but yeah.
No, I don't think you do. You try to calm things down a little bit, but the one thing that I think somebody else was arguing with you as well is like standing up for somebody, standing up for what's right, et cetera, et cetera. You kind of like play neutral as fuck as much as possible.
Yeah.
And I don't. Like, I'm not neutral. Like, I have a voice and I'm going to throw it out there.
Yeah.
And I know that your advice is correct. And I still don't follow it because it's just not as fun.
Yeah. No, I get you. I get you. And I think that's a fair assumption. Is Jen joining?
She's joining with the drink, and I don't know if she's joining in the...
I don't want to be on your Facebook show.
She doesn't want to be on my Facebook show. And I want to figure out how to get this light to work better.
Dude, it looks completely fine right now. I mean, I think so.
Do you have one of these bad boys?
Oh, dude, you have the whole set up.
It's so big and bulky.
It is. I don't have the space for that in my apartment.
I don't know where I'd put this to make it better. Yeah, dude, it's big. I don't like it. So it's a quiet brunch.
It is, man. Like I said, I was thinking like for Sunday, people are either hungover, they're tired, they're enjoying watching a movie. You know, it's a relaxing day. I think I should have advertised it more for Saturday and just like yesterday, and people would have. But it's all good, man. We can have a couple of drinks and then call it quits. Like, it's not a biggie.
Oh, we'll figure it out.
Yep. What has Jen been up? Man, you and Jen should watch this movie, man. Like, it actually, I thought it was completely worth the time because it makes you reflect a little bit on the basic human needs and whatever. But it's a Spanish movie that came out recently on Netflix, and it's called The Platform. I know she was asking for suggestions on Netflix.
And it's in Spanish too?
Yeah, it's like Spanish from Spain too, which is even hard to. Oh damn! But Man, it's amazing. Like you guys need to check it out. Like I don't want to even say anything about it. It's just pretty much. I have to say something, but it's these two people that are in this like.
What's up, Raju?
What's up, man? Hang on. I'm going to get headphones.
Sorry to interrupt, Daniel. I just wanted.
No, you're good.
It's a little quiet.
It is quiet.
It might be louder in my headphones.
Oh no, you sound good actually. Oh, but it's quiet. All right. What was the name of that movie again, Daniel?
The platform. Yeah, I enjoyed it. I mean, I would just say it's just kind of gruesome. It's kind of hard to watch, but I think it's worth a watch. I've been thinking about it the last couple of days. So how do you know Raju? Or Raju, how do you know Mark?
We work together.
Okay, very nice. All right, what do you do the exact same thing as Mark?
You asked that question just as my like Bluetooth headphones kicked in, and I like missed all of it.
You're good. Do you ask? Do you do the same job as Mark?
I don't know. Maybe. I guess. Sorta. I don't know.
mean-
Mark, what do you think?
Yeah. We're probably going to be doing pretty similar jobs. Probably I'm a little bit more on the administrative, doing paperwork stuff, and he's going to probably do more technical coding and things like that. But we overlap probably 80%, maybe is my guess.
Okay.
Once we both get settled in. I mean, all of our jobs are kind of newish.
Okay.
That's true. That's true. This is a new foray for the government, I guess.
Yep. How are you dealing with the quarantine, Raju? Like,
It's all right. I mean, I have a lot of like because of the way that my career has worked out and stuff. It's like I've been all over the country, effectively. Well, all over except for the West, and so I have like little pockets of friends all over the place. So I've just been kind of like on rotation, checking in with people as I go. So to me, it really
nice.
hasn't felt all that much different than
regular life.
My Fitbit's angry because like I'm at like 3,000 steps a day kind
Yeah.
of thing. But
Oh yeah.
Man, me too. Like that's been. I was mentioning it yesterday, but like same thing. I'm averaging like 2,500 steps a day, which is bad. Like today, I went for a run finally, and
oh yeah.
having the fridge fully stocked while you're here, like I know that I'm confusing hunger with boredom sometimes. I'm not even that bored, but yeah.
So something that my wife and I are actually doing that's really helping out is, well, one, our yoga studio has gone completely
Digital.
So I've been doing like yoga every night effectively, and it's so weird. It's like, before yoga to me was just sort of like some way to stretch and recover from more intense workouts. But
Yeah.
the classes that we've been doing, my arms are actually getting bigger, which is kind of amazing. It's
Dude,
great.
I've heard so much about it, and I've been wanting to get because I have zero flexibility. Like, I need to work on it. I've never had the. I think I've always been shy, and I know that this happens to everyone. But I know that you can go there, and there'll be like a 90-year-old who is just kicking your ass, and like I'm like, okay, I shouldn't do it, but like I'm just gonna give it a try. I know that it must be great. Everyone keeps telling me I need to do it.
You should do it. It's fantastic. I mean, it's like, about a year ago, I started doing yoga about a year ago because like my wife was super into it, but to me it was always like, I don't want to go and like get my ass kicked by some 90-year-old, right? It's like, and this is the worst shape I've been in my life, so it's kind of like, I'm a little conscious. But it's like the studio that we go to, the people are fantastic in that they're really happy-go-lucky, and they appreciate when you just show up and try stuff. So like the couple of yoga instructors that like, if they like try and do like an arm balance and I know I can't do it, I'm gonna try it anyway and eat shit. And I get up and I giggle, and they're into that. So it's sort of like it's allowed me to sort of get more comfortable with myself.
Yeah, for sure.
And my flexibility has increased like crazy. Like when I was a kid, I was in
Really?
Taekwondo. Yeah, I used to be in Taekwondo, so it's like, I was pretty flexible. I used to be able to like, kick my leg up, like, just vertically and all sorts of fun stuff, right? And a couple months ago, it's been years since I've been able to do like a full back bend wheel. And like, I was just sort of like, screw it, let's try it. And it's just like, went right up, and I was like, oh my God.
Jeez.
It's been well over half a decade since I've been able to do that. And then like,
Wow.
one of the last yoga sessions that we did we went into quarantine and stuff, we were actually in the studio. And we were goofing around, and the guy was like, well, this would be a place where you would sort of like, move into a shoulder stand. And I was like, okay. And he's like, well, just try it. And I was like, all right, so I can do half a shoulder stand and that like my legs are compressed. And he was like, well, you're there. He's like, just throw your legs up and see what happens. I threw my legs up, and the first time I just like straight up went over, right?
Oh.
But like I felt a moment in which like, but see, this is where like all the Taekwondo Hapkido stuff came in, where it's like I kind of rolled out of it and was fine.
Right.
So like I was like, so I wasn't injured, so I was like, I'll try it again. I went up and I was just like there, and I was like, holy shit, like,
Dude.
this is just from like doing it every day kind of thing. I didn't realize I'd gotten a lot stronger than I was a year ago. I recommend it. But it's important to find a place where it's like supportive though, because it's like,
Yeah.
I hate ours is like a little boutique studio, and everybody's like local and stuff, and they're all like happy-go-lucky hippies, which is what you want. But like I went to one of the commercial ones that my wife used to go to because it was like up the street from where she used to work, and that place was the fucking worst place I've ever been. I hated it.
Just the
'Cause it was, like-
instructors were they pretty
Yeah.
brutal?
It was more like it felt more like it felt more like I was in like a spin class or something, and less like yoga. It was more like it was all about repetitive motion, and it was kind of like the music was annoying, and
Yeah.
it was just so it was like, so I can see if you go to like one of those things where you'd really be disappointed with all of it, but if you go to a place where it's a lot more
Supportive
friendly.
and yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I can pass you the information to my studio from through Mark or something if you. Because all their classes are digital. Just give it a go. They're happy. The 7:30 class on Monday is like, they call it fundamentals, and it's with this woman Lisa, who actually, like, I used to go to her class first because she really helped me sort of understand that it's okay to sort of fall, but it's important to try, kind of thing.
Right.
And it's like an hour and a half, and she's really happy, and she's always like laughing and like, just very happy to be there, which is kind of nice.
Man, I'd love to. If
Sure.
you don't mind, that would be great.
Yeah. Let me take an old school note here on paper to text Mark that information. I don't know. I'm not. I always feel like, so I got another buddy of mine in because it's like this has really helped me out a lot, especially during this time. But like just over the last year, kind of like decompress and stuff.
Oh yeah.
But it's like I don't want to. I don't want it to sound like I'm trying to, get people to join my yoga club.
Dude,
Do it if you want.
I'm the one. I'm the
don't
one
give
that
shit.
I asked. No
Yeah.
worries at all. Thank you.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I like it. We did one this morning, and it was a lot of fun. And it's like every time I go, I'm kind of like, I don't want to do this. I just don't feel like moving. And then it's like I get going, and the people are like fun. So it's kind of like, you get into it.
No, for sure. I want to improve.
what
Man,
if-
I cannot even touch my ankles. Like, I mean, I have zero flexibility. So like, it is the one thing. Like, even when I get in shape, like I want to work on my flexibility. And I know that there's also some sort of a mental aspect to it. And so I want to explore that as well. So, anyways, yeah, thank you,
Yeah, no problem. So what have you been doing?
man. I manage an environmental and also a health and safety program for a company. So like work-wise, it has been kind of intense the last week, but I've been working from home, and so I was working plenty, honestly. But on top of that, it hasn't the quarantine hasn't affected me, and yet I've always wanted to have that extra time at home, and I have not been using it, productively. I've been just playing a bunch of video games. Eating a bunch of food, watching a bunch of movies, and so that's why this week I was just telling Mark, I have a little one, and I've been taking him to ride the bicycle, and while he's learning to ride the bike, he already does it pretty well. I just run behind him. Been trying to do stretches at home, which is not the same as yoga, obviously.
Yeah.
But just that, and just spend a bunch of time in I do some video editing, like Mark does, and so just really losing time. Like what I know I need to do is having a routine and knowing this is what I want to do. Yep.
No, I totally get that. That's kind of important. I mean, I've been playing a lot of video games. I don't know what you're playing. What are you playing?
So most recently I've been playing a lot of I have a Switch, so I play a lot of Smash Brothers, and I just got the new Doom Eternal. So I've been playing
nice.
a bunch of that, man. And I like StarCraft also a little bit for PC. What about you?
Well, it's funny that you say the Switch. I've been kind of hooked. hooked into the Animal Crossing train, so I've been kind of playing a lot of that.
That just came out, right? Like the same day as Doom. I think.
Yeah, they came out at the same time. Yep. I chose Animal Crossing because I play a lot of recently actually. It's not. I used to play a lot of Call of Duty when I was like an early career, like early in my grad school years, like because it was like I'd get home from lab at like 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night, and it's like consistently I could find people playing Call of Duty, so I would do that. But
Right.
so now I started replaying that, but I've been playing a lot of Animal Crossing, and I know that later this afternoon around 5 o'clock, a bunch of my buddies and I were gonna do Jackbox over the internet, and that's gonna be we're gonna do
Which one is Jackbox?
Jackbox is that party game system where it's like there's a bunch of like different games, and it's sort of like one person runs effectively like the game server, and everybody gets like a link that they can log into using their cell phone, and it's sort of like you're playing live together. Yeah,
man, I'm gonna have to check that out. That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, if let me see, I'll talk to those other guys. I know that we go way back. These are my buddies from like college, so it's kind of like I know we're gonna do that. But if not, if they're cool with it, I'll text you guys the link and you can join in. And it's goofy, it's fun, it's like
for sure. Yeah, no, I completely get it. In either case, yeah, I'm gonna have to totally check it out. I mean, is it a web based or is it an app that you have to download?
It's web and app kind of thing. So it's like like I said, the way it works is you sort of boot up one of the games, like somebody has to boot it up as a server, right? It's like a game server that you're booting up, and then the other people can log into it via app, or like I think there's a browser based code too. Like there's a browser based.
Sounds pretty good, man.
Where you add a code. So it's like, yeah, some of them will be like, so what you do is like the games go like, they'll have different modes, and it'll be like, my favorite one is they'll make up a fake word, and they're like, you have to write a definition. And it's like whatever you define that word as, and everybody votes, and whoever anonymously votes on which definition they think is the funniest. And then it's sort of like, you get points and you're trying to.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
No, I'm gonna because for the Switch I got like Mario Party, and I think it's a great drinking game. Or like my girlfriend doesn't like to play video games, but she'll play Mario Party because like it's those type of little things. So I was thinking like, man, it would be great if I literally have thought of that before. It would be great if there was something that I could play even with Mark. Mark doesn't play video games, but I'm sure he would like enjoy something like Jackbox or whatever. Something simple like that. So
for sure, yeah. No, I mean, I'm more than happy to like run one and have you guys hop in and play, because it's like that's the thing that I found that helps me kind of keep sane is just sort of I'm kind of an extrovert, so it's like for me it's like I got to get like
interaction.
I got to get interaction with people and like a wide variety of people, and it's sort of I'm trying to find ways to do that.
Fair enough.
Yeah, and so this is a good way to do it. And there's so many things out there that you can do stuff like this.
Yeah,
you can like Smash Brothers is a great way to
play, man, right? It's very I've been streaming, just so you know, by the way. There's 0 viewers, so there's nothing, but I figured I should have told you this when this is streaming into a YouTube channel.
Mark texted me.
Okay.
So
okay.
Yeah, no, I know.
Okay.
We're not talking about anything that I wouldn't say to anyone in person.
No, absolutely, anyways. Absolutely.
I said some bad stuff last night, but it was all right.
Well, I mean, Friday night, Kimber, my wife Kimber was in the other room. She was like, she heard me like totally go off on somebody. But again, it's like it's not something I wouldn't have said to them in a face-to-face conversation either. So it's like. Yeah.
No, you're good, man.
Yeah.
Well,
I think it's. Oh, go ahead.
What I was gonna say is we've been playing. I'm trying to run down through all these cards, and since you're here, it might be a good way to also get to know each other. But you obviously don't have to. It's a little bit too early to begin with, anyways. But Mark and I are having a drink, and so we're doing it's truth or drink. Pretty much.
Oh, okay.
Truth or drink.
Yeah.
All right.
So if you don't want to drink, you can just do coffee, water, or not do anything. But the point of this is that if some of these questions, they're definitely personal. So you can just like, I pass, guys. Or whatever.
Well, let me think about it. You know what? I'll pass for a little bit on the drinking thing, but
yeah.
Go ahead, ask me some questions. Let's see where my line actually is.
Okay. Fair enough. All right.
Mark knows I'm pretty open. So it's just-
Yep. No, trust me. Like some of these have been challenging, man. I think it's been fun to play this, but so some of them don't apply because they're meant for people that know each other, and I just met you. But we'll figure it out. Let's see. And some of them are lame, so just bear with me.
Sure.
I mean, this one's pretty simple, not hard to. But what's the most kick-ass you've ever felt?
What's the most kick-ass I've ever felt?
And we'll have to answer it.
Oh, all right. If you guys have an answer, go ahead. Let me think about this. I've done a lot of kick-ass shit. So
I think maybe Mark and I have the same answer actually, because this is definitely the most. Mark and I jumped out of an airplane while we were probably not in good condition to do it. We were both very hungover, and we did it without a person attached to our back. We did it tandem, so I thought that was pretty. Do you have a different answer, Mark? Because I think that's the most kick-ass thing I've ever done.
Yeah, I think I don't know the answer yet, but I think there's something more because I was so hungover that day, dude. Like it was not kick ass. It was like nothing but a blur, and I got fucked up and mangled on my knee.
Yeah,
That other dude that got tangled up in his shit, that was pretty bad.
yeah, that was a terrible day, man.
You fell asleep during the instructions, and the guy yelled at you.
Yeah.
Dude, there was no water at that place. You couldn't find a fucking drop of water anywhere. And that's what drove me nuts, man. I'm like, dude, I'm so thirsty. Because you guys woke me up at like 6 a.m. and I'm like, I barely woke up. And I'm just like, oh, shit. Wasn't that the same time that somebody puked outside of your car and then the puke got onto the paint and, and it started eating the paint? It was like right around that time frame.
Dude, those college days were terrible, man.
vomit will eat paint. I mean,
Nobody-
that's for sure.
Nobody really believes us. Oh, you can't jump out solo your first time. I'm like, well, we fucking did. I wish we went tandem, honestly.
It was
Yeah.
terrible. And Mark went first, and like I saw him land and yell in pain, and then the guy was like, "You're next." I was like, "All right," like it was terrible.
That's funny.
What about you, Raju?
Well, okay, all right. I will admit that being able to do that handstand, like that shoulder stand, was pretty amazing.
Yeah.
But if we're I don't know if this is kick ass or reckless as shit, because like what you again, like with your jumping out of a plane story, there's actually a really, and I have to see if the picture still exists, but there's a really funny picture I remember of me from college, and I'm a little intoxicated as well, and it's like, so I decided I was gonna make a flamethrower, and we had gone out to like the dollar store, and I found like these hornet sprays, right, which like they'll shoot like an aerosol like 15 feet, right?
Yeah. So I have one.
I'm in a college dorm room, upside down, and like I'm holding myself, like I'm doing a handstand like up against a wall, so it's like, you know, the wall's holding me up, but I'm like completely on one hand, and the other hand is this like flamethrower, and I'm inside a building, so it's like I'm splayed out, and there's just this like jet of flame flying out from like one hand.
Oh my god.
That was dangerous as shit, right? Was it kick ass or reckless?
That is pretty kick ass, man. I think that qualifies.
So the only reason that like the bits and pieces of that night that actually I remember is like the next day, like my shoulder hurt. Like a bunch, like the shoulder that was holding me up, and one of my buddies was like, "Yeah, dude, like you held that for about 5 seconds, and then like I came over because I was so drunk I couldn't balance anymore." And he's like, "You came down on your neck and shoulder, and then like let go of this flamethrower." And he's like, and part of the wall actually like just sort of like lit a little bit, and they were like put it out real fast. But I was like, "Shit, like never doing that again."
Dude,
I don't know if that was kick ass, reckless as fuck.
I say it counts as kick ass, man. I think that's a good answer.
If it makes you feel good.
I was like 18, maybe 17 still at the time.
Yeah, of course you had
Dumb
to be.
as shit.
You had to be.
It was so dumb. So dumb.
It's weird that at that age, man, we're completely different people, man. So.
I know. Well, it's funny. Like I'll tell my wife these stories, and she's always just like, "Man, I'm amazed you're still alive." And I'm like, "I'm amazed I'm still alive. Like, I don't understand how this happened."
Yeah, same.
Is this why I'm not winning the lottery? Because I'm like rolling the dice and coming out ahead somewhere else.
Yeah. I think the same thing, man. Oh shit.
Bad.
All right, that was a good question, actually. So some of these have to. I don't like this. This is a really lame question. Is if we formed a gang, what would the name of our post be? Let's skip this one. I don't. I don't want to answer that question.
It's not COVID. No, the cough is not.
Oh, I thought you
But-
named the gang COVID.
But Raju is he's specialized in biochemistry for his PhD, I guess. I don't know what you call that, but
Oh
anyways,
wow.
he can answer some chemical and biological related questions if we have any about COVID, probably a little better than most.
I mean, more than me, you want the other one, right? The other one's an actual virologist. So,
Oh, your
Oh,
wife
damn.
is?
yeah, that's her. That was half of her PhD was like virology and like flu infections and
Oh,
like in
wow.
mathematical biology of like flu transmission and stuff.
Damn.
So can I ask you, like how has it been for her? Like, is she getting flooded with questions, or is work really busy, or is it just really not? Is she not involved in any of the like?
She's not involved in any of that stuff, though. I do have a buddy who works for like the CDC, and like and he was sort of saying that like there's a lot of questions coming their way, which I mean obviously
Of
makes
course.
sense for all of us. Yeah,
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough.
yeah.
Okay.
Just leave it at that.
Yeah. No. Fair enough. All right. So for the next one, I guess I'm asking you more. I'll modify this again because we don't know each other. So, but if you didn't have your current job, what job would you be doing? Like, what job would you like to be doing?
Oh, bro, that's an easy one. Astronaut. I've wanted to be an astronaut since I was like 6. I've got this giant ass telescope that I use often. Like I'm outside. I'm applying for the astronaut program now. Like screw it. That's what I want.
Oh, really?
It's open. The application's open until the 31st. Put it in if you want. Go for it. They're looking for people with science backgrounds.
I don't think I would do it. Would you do it, Mark?
Oh, I wouldn't want to go through like 4 years of training to do it, but I would definitely go up to space for sure.
Man, I mean, of course, like going into space would be like also like the dream, but I'm a lot into it, and I've seen like so many documentaries. I recently listened to one of the a podcast where they had this astronaut that was there for 29 days, and like you have to be there 30 days before you get like a certain type of badge, and he was just describing like the intense mental capacity that you have to be, because you are kind of 100% in isolation. You're eating this weird food, constantly.
Yeah.
You're sleeping, like I thought it was super cool how they sleep. Like you're pretty much in a coffin, and it's in a little circle to
Yeah.
save space
Yeah.
and all this stuff.
Velcroed, you're Velcroed in. Yeah.
Yeah, man. I mean, I think it would be very cool. Don't get me wrong, but I think it does take. I don't know if I'm ready for that. Like, it would be a fucking challenge, man.
So the reason that like I've always wanted to do this, right? And this is kind of like the story that I use for why I got obsessed with space, right? Like I think I was like 6, and one of the a comet came through called Hale-Bopp, I think. And I remember it was like 3 a.m, and my dad runs into the room and like shakes me and my sister awake, right? My sister's pissed. She's older than me, but she likes her sleep, and she's just like, what? And I remember my dad's like it was like early in the summer, like it was like July or June or something, and he like, no, I think it was like still May, because I think I went to school that Monday, and was like, that's all I can think about. Drags me out and he points up, and there's this new object in the sky I'd never seen before, and it's a comet, and you can see it with the eye, because it was one of these comets that passed by and was so bright you could see it, and you could see it for like
wow.
I think it holds the record for longest like visible
Visual.
by eye
Yeah.
comet
Damn.
like in human history or something, and it'll come back around in like 2,700 years or something ridiculous like that. And it's like ever since then, it's like, I look up and I think, what all is out there, and like the unknown doesn't scare me. Like some people don't like the unknown, right? My wife doesn't want to get scuba certified because she's afraid of what's down there that she can't see, and she doesn't want to go to space because she's afraid of what's out there that she can't see, right? To me, I'm like, that's infinite possibility. Yeah, sure, you might get eaten by a shark, but at the same time, you might see something crazy. So it's like,
Oof. That's an interesting way to looking at it, man.
well, that's the thing, is that like, you're up there, you're isolated, but at the same time, it's like, there's just so much to see and so much to do. And like I said, I'm an extrovert, but like when I'm mentally stimulated and engaged, it's like I don't need other people. Like I get so into my own little world that it's just like, and I feel like that's like the ultimate that, right? You're up there, and it's like, you're running experiments in the capsule, you're looking outside, you're just sort of capturing the entirety of the universe all at once. It's like it's kind of amazing. Like,
Dude,
I don't know.
and I'm gonna deviate from these questions for a second because I think this is a topic we're discussing. But um, I agree, and I don't know if Mark maybe has a different point of view from both of us. But I I do believe that fear and even anxiety comes from uncertainty and the unknown. So like I get you. Like I do love exploring like a new thing. I personally I have an insane fear. Like when I'm in the, I'm a good swimmer, man. Like I pull people even before from drowning, like in the ocean. But like
Yeah.
that feeling
Damn.
that you cannot see before, like I always get like when I'm swimming in the ocean and I cannot see, it's like that scares the fuck out of me. And in space, I think that would be, I would have some of that too, but not as much because in the orbit, you know that people have been there. But that's why I
Yeah.
would be scared of aliens and UFOs because you just don't know if
What's out there? You don't
what's-
know. Yeah.
yeah, like if they would be hostile or whatever. Um, and I think that's part of it, man. Like I think that maybe this is, I'm gonna sound like a crazy person or something, but I think that there's a high chance that maybe the people that go to the space station not so much, but like though other people that are training maybe for a second mission to the moon or anything like that, I think there's a decent probability that there is something that they're not telling the general public, whether it's alien or whatever, and that just scares me, man. It scares me that I would see something that no one has ever found before.
So that's funny that you say that. So I used to work at St. Jude Children's Research Hospital, right, in Memphis, and that's a cool place. And as a result of being that kind of cool place that's like world renowned and famous, right, we used to get some really famous people coming through, and I got an opportunity to talk to one of the astronauts, and he gave a speech, and he was kind of amazing. His name was Leland Melvin, right?
Okay.
And that guy was crazy. He was so cool. He was a NFL football player who then went off to get an engineering degree, and then he started working at NASA and then became an astronaut. Like, I mean, it's like the peak of the peak of the peak, right? He's just like hopping around, like amazing dude.
What's his name again?
Leland Melvin, Leland Melvin.
Okay.
He's a cool guy. Look him up.
Yep.
And so like one of the people like during this thing was like gets up, and so they open it up to ask for people to ask questions, and like all of St. Jude is there, and you know that's what thousands, and like there's a couple, I think almost 1,000 employees there, but like in this auditorium it's packed because this dude is cool, right?
Right.
And this lady gets up and starts asking a question, and we're all rolling our eyes because she's like, oh, like, you know, have you ever seen an alien or something? Like, and she's like rambling, and like, you know, we're all like just scientists. We're all kind of being like, you know, goofy skeptics and stuff.
Right.
And we're just hanging out. And he goes, it's funny that you asked that question. He's like, let me tell you the wildest story that happened to me while I was in space, right? And I'm like, oh my god, what happened? And so he goes, well, we were like, you know, we had a cargo to deploy, and we had opened the cargo bay, and he's like, you know, and we're like, you know, we have a camera that's looking into the bay so that we can sort of manipulate the object that we're moving out. And he's like, and all of a sudden we see a little silver object sort of like scurry across the side of the cabin. And he's like, you know, it's space. He's like, what's surviving up there? And he's like, we're all freaking out. He's like, you know, we're all sitting there. He's like, you know, it was him and like two or three other team members, and he's like, we're all sitting there trying to figure out what the hell is going on because we think we've made first contact. Like, and first contact happens to be with like an alien mouse, right? Right. Some sort of like crazy stowaway. And he's like, you know, it took us a couple hours. He's like, you know, we're freaking out. We're calling back down, being like, guys, there's something up here with us. Like, we don't know what's going on. Like, what do we do about this? Like, what is it? What is it? What is it? And he goes, eventually, like, they're like, you know, just keep an eye on it and figure out what it is. Like, you know, and that's the thing, right? You have to be calm. You're in a big metal tube, like out in space. I mean, if something's going to get you, it's going to get you. And he goes, eventually, like, he was like, you know, we were all excited because it's more a thrilling possibility. And yeah, maybe that's the thing that ends humanity, but it's a thrilling possibility to be the first to see something new. And then he's like, you know, after a little bit of time, we then finally, like, you know, figure it out. He's like, it was one of like these like big metal like anti-static bags that some of the equipment was in. It wasn't like stowed down correctly, so it effectively had gotten loose when the object had moved. So it was like, you know, this thing just sort of like dislodged and looked like it had scurried across, and it was just like moving around. But because we didn't know what it was, and it was a big shiny like silver object, he's like, you know, we all saw that, and like that taught me two things, right? It's like, one, I don't know if they're necessarily going to hide stuff from us.
Right.
Unless it needs to be hidden from us, right? Like, we don't tell everybody where all the nuclear missiles are, 'cause
Right.
humans are idiots and we don't deserve to know that kind of stuff.
Yep.
Most people are not. And two, it's just sort of like that insane possibility of being the first to see something, I think, is something that drives a lot of people, right? It's kind
For
of why
sure.
people keep secrets. It's kind of why people do. And I think that's probably why a lot of PhDs go get deep science degrees or whatever, or deep social science degrees and all this other stuff. Because it's like, I know for me, it's like whenever I made a discovery in the lab and I was like the only person on earth that knew that thing, at least at that point, based on
Right.
my perspective, I was the only person who knew it, right? Until I told somebody, I was the only person who knew that. And it was just this like adrenaline junkie rush.
For
right?
sure.
It's like,
That's pretty cool. See, those would be kick-ass moments.
Yeah.
I just invented something, discovered something.
Yeah, but then it was like I'm a very like open and I'm an open scientist, right? I believe in sharing information, non-detrimental information, right? Sharing it with everybody, and so like I would run around telling everybody what I figured out because maybe they can do something amazing with it, or maybe they can help me move it forward, right?
Right.
And I feel like a lot of people who are in the sciences, or are like in the world for discovery. Like, this is kind of why, like, Jane Goodall kept a notebook and, like, shared her notes with everybody. It's kind of why, like, every other major scientist is famous for the fact that they found something and shared it, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of the astronauts, and Leland Melvin was the second astronaut that I got to actually, like, be around and talk to. Oh, third, actually. I met one when I was a kid. We were down at, like, Goddard or something, and, like, they were there just talking to people, and I was there with my dad talking to people.
Right.
And they were all like very open and willing to answer questions because to them it's sort of like it's the thrill of discovery.
For sure.
I don't know, man.
For sure. No,
I don't know.
and don't get me wrong. When you describe it that way, like I think I even share the enthusiasm that comes with it. I think that I'm big into like just alien shows and stuff like and I think maybe I'm a little bit. I think that just the unknown. Like even Stephen Hawking, I think, said at some point, like if there was aliens, like it would be highly likely that they would be hostile. Which again, you never know or whatever. And I think it is that little part of me that fears is like, I think if we found someone, if we were exploring and we found like we would, because I'm relating it to humans. Humans are stupid and we're messed up and we're fucked up, and we would probably try to capture that thing and experiment on it or whatever. And it's like I would hate to be captured by like a thing I don't know, and who knows what would happen. Who knows if it would be painful. But you're right, man. That thrill of finding that would be hard to fight or argue with. Yeah.
I feel like
go ahead.
Like I feel like if there's any secret out there that the government's keeping, the government's is I don't think it's as competent as people think it is. Like people leak left and right. Like there's no fucking way you can keep some shit like that a secret. No way in hell. It doesn't matter to me. Like, yeah, I don't know. It's just too many years go by where there's conspiracy theories. Like somebody would have leaked, in my opinion.
And you're right. I mean, saying that the likelihood that they'll be hostile is high because, as far as human experience is concerned, we define ourselves by what we're not, and therefore we're always trying to explore what we are not. I mean, I'm Indian, right? I understand what colonization looks like.
Yeah.
I've seen it, and that was done purely because one group thought they were better than another,
right?
And what's to say that aliens won't feel that way? But then the question also becomes, are we going to be able to evolve as humans, and then therefore as any species, any intergalactic species, to a point where we can see beyond the petty basic natures of humanity to actually
absolutely
be. And one of the theories that's out there sort of says that in order for any civilization to get to a point where they can sort of get off of their own planet is because they figured out a way to work past all of their differences to work together to get off, because no one enterprise is going to be able to do it, right? We've seen that here on our world,
right?
So we'll see. It'll be interesting.
It will be, man. I could talk about this for hours and
hours. I get, yeah. Let's move on. New question.
So, all right. Mark, I don't think you answered on that. So, I mean, is there a job that if you were not doing this, you'd see yourself doing? Can you hold off for just a second before answering? I'm gonna get a drink because I want to hear this. Oh,
Sure, sure.
That was pretty funny,
You guys
though.
can.
I mean,
I'll be right back.
the competency question is a good one, right? It's sort of like what will actually happen.
Yeah, it's crazy. I was thinking about the whole what it takes to even make life in the universe, anyways. Like, for every possibility of how things cannot replicate, they didn't reproduce and replicate. So, like, it didn't happen. But the one possibility where replication actually occurred randomly, the only things that actually replicate are the ones that actually can replicate, right? You know, you can't just do it out of thin air, but
Yeah.
it makes sense that the only things that survive are the things that can replicate. So by chance, of all the nothingness in the entire universe, there's a chance that something was able to replicate, and that's us. Like, we've replicated, you know?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's kind of the probability problem, right? Like, there's a couple of I forget, it's a paradox, but it's sort of like, what is the probability that we are unique in the universe, right? And if we are unique, are we unique because we are the first of our kind, or are we unique because we are the last of our kind, or are we unique because probability has dictated that these events are so low that, like, you can potentially only exist in a specific, like the next positive probable event is so far away and so far out from development to actually, like, be able to be us, kind of thing. Because it's I think it's called like the catastrophe funnel or something weird like that, right? It's sort of like, for every successful event, there's like a million non-successful, like, species ending events that could have occurred that had to be avoided, right? Like an asteroid hitting us early in our development so that we didn't get out here, like, to this point, or having that random replication not be successful enough for us to actually, be what we are, or for us to, and actually, what's funny is many of these, like, world-ending events are actually self-induced world-ending events, like Cold War. We could have easily nuked ourselves into oblivion, right? But we managed to avoid that probability. We could have, like, had a pandemic disease, like, let's say the Spanish flu of the 1918 Spanish flu, like, wiped out all of humanity. Like, diseases could have wiped us all out. Things like volcanoes, earthquakes, like, the earth is still shifting around, like, all of these. So, like, for every one successful sort of event, there can be hundreds to millions of not world-ending events, and sort of it's this, like, probability funnel of we could potentially still get to a point where, before we sort of get into this, like, intergalactic space travel, that we annihilate ourselves, and we don't know what others. And they say that probability dictates that other species have actually annihilated themselves before they've actually, like, moved off, and that's possibly why we don't see them, or probability.
Right.
There's so many. It's math, and I love it. The fact that it's, like, math. You can use math to figure this whole thing out.
For sure.
Right. Yeah.
Or at least figure out probabilities.
Let me ask you, if you don't mind me on that, but I don't know if your wife has even discussed this with you, or if you have your own point of view, but like I've seen, there was this he was the head of infectious diseases in the University of Minnesota, and he was in the Joe Rogan podcast, and he was describing the myths and whatever about the coronavirus, and I've heard many people in that field saying that it was simply that we were due to a pandemic, and I've always had, like, the question on what does that mean, that we were due, I mean, is it just based on math probability? Mathematical probability, or is it just that, I mean, is there a belief that the Earth really truly has some sort of mechanism or something?
I mean, I don't know what his perspective is, but I've thought about this a lot, right? And it's one of these things where it's like, the harder we work to sort of keep things at bay, the new things that we create that we can't anticipate, right? It's kind of like cancer. I'm a cancer biologist. Like, that's what I did for a long time, right? And cancer is a great example of this. So when you get cancer, we do some screening. We figure out what kind of disease you have, what kind of treatments we can give you for that disease. So, we make a list and say, all right, his tumor has X, Y, Z attributes, and we can use A, B, and C disease drugs to treat those attributes and maybe bring it down. But cancer is a disease of probability, right? If, let's say, we're able to successfully eliminate X, 90% eliminate Y, but we only hit Z for 50%. Z can potentially mutate into something that's completely unexpected that we then have to figure out how to solve, right?
Yeah.
And as we keep solving those, eventually we can get to a state where we either resolve it completely or we get to a point where we can't resolve it anymore, right? And that's just basic, that's biology. Biology is like probability, it's probability meets a little bit of like, it's probability meets, so like chance meeting systems that are sort of designed to sort of work their way around chance, right? Viruses, like coronavirus is an RNA virus, right? And what we know about RNA viruses is they are incredibly mutagenic in that because they're RNA based, there's a lot more wobble, there's a lot more like change that they can undergo very quickly. So it's like, we're working our way, unlike the flu is a DNA virus, if I remember right. Yeah. So it's like, as we sort of work our way one way in one like pathway, like it's sort of like, let's say you're driving from here to California, and you get to a fork in the road and you have to decide whether you're going to go north or south, right? And you say, okay, I'm going to go north because I want to visit some friends in Chicago while I go across to like Northern California. You get to Chicago and you decide, oh, I actually want to go to Central California so I can go south, or I can still keep going north and then come back around. So we've made all of these decisions in our healthcare system, the way that we treat each other, the way that we use antibiotics, the way that we use antibacterials, the way that we sort of mitigate some diseases and can't deal with other diseases, that eventually we get to a point where there is a disease that is unanticipated that we're due to get. And because of population density, the way that people migrate and stuff, like we were due for a pandemic. The same thing, like the 1918 like pandemic happened as a result of the fact that we had gotten to a state in human civilization where people were able to migrate quickly, and we had a disease that sort of took advantage of that, and then we had a pandemic, and then it forced us to rethink our medical system, rethink our infrastructure, rethink the way that people move. And they went into quarantine as well, right, to try and keep each other from dying.
Did you see that guy that's claiming that a cat got the coronavirus? I'd be curious if the cat can infect humans, if the cat truly had coronavirus.
So again, this is another like Kimbra-ish question, but like there are flu strains that affect all sorts of animals, right? Like we use ferrets as a model organism for flu. Whales can get the flu and stuff. So it could be that the cat got like human coronavirus, or there's a coronavirus like thing. There's a coronavirus that affects cats, right? Because corona is it's a class of viruses, right? And they're like MERS was a coronavirus, SARS was a coronavirus, and COVID-19 is a coronavirus. So it's like the question becomes, is it like, did it get human coronavirus? Which it could have, because these viruses are very good at infecting things, because it's sort of like that's what they do. They're kind of genetically engineered for that. And then if it is a human coronavirus, then the question becomes, like you said, once it's in the cat, is the cat a positive transmitting carrier, right? When it goes into the cat, does it change state to become something that can't transmit back to humans, or is it something that can come back? There are some strains of flu that, as we know with like avian flu, right, can jump from birds to humans, humans to birds, birds to humans, humans to birds. But let's say it gets into the bird and can't come back to human, then that's, sure, it kills all the geese, but it doesn't really affect humans. Same thing with so there's a feline strain of HIV, right? It's really, but you can't get feline HIV, if I'm correct. You really can't. So it's sort of like, does it matter, right?
Right. Wow.
And I don't know if cats can get human HIV.
No idea. Yeah.
Don't mess with cats, Daniel. That's what he's trying to tell you. No, I'm just kidding.
But I mean,
saying you could.
I get it, and I heard the same thing that there was a couple of cases with dogs that were getting some COVID-19. I don't know if that meant.
Well, I thought that report was debunked. I thought they came out and said that actually your dogs can't get it.
Oh,
people
okay,
freaked
good.
out and they were like, dogs can get coronavirus, and it's like, and then they were like, no, your dog can't get like COVID-19.
Well, I think it would be definitely more like way out there, right? Like it would have been shared like your dog can get it. People love dogs, man. That would be a tragedy in the world. So I think more people would be aware of it. But okay, good to know. But the answer to your question is really it's just survival evolution, really. Like I mean, the virus. Well, if you add to the fact that like you said, like we keep evolving ourselves, we keep traveling more, we keep changing, but the virus are able to mutate. They're trying to survive as well and to adapt, and that is why like eventually we'll keep finding things, right? Like
Yeah. No, and that's the thing is that like all diseases can be distilled down into like, a couple attributes, right? One, the disease itself. Two, the transmission profile. Three, migration between like carriers, right? It's like, vector transmission effectively, right? That's why malaria is kind of ridiculous in that malaria goes from people to people because mosquitoes travel pretty well in those
Yeah.
population dense areas. So it's like, we
Wow.
can sort of break it down into all of this stuff. And if you get a perfect event in which all of those various attributes become hot, right? You get corona, let's say corona, for example, right? A disease that can be transmitted quickly, an environment in which vectors, people, are moving around quickly and very effectively, quickly, faster than the lifespan of the virus, right? Faster than the infective time period of the virus. Like, let's say it takes somebody from Germany to get to the United States on a steamboat. It takes them 2 months, right? And maybe they infect everybody on that steamboat, and then they're out there for 2 months. They resolve. Everybody either dies or the virus goes away, right? Then it won't really get transmitted here because that infective population doesn't get here because Corona right now has, what is it, 2 to 4 day hot transmission period, something like that. I don't remember the.
I thought the incubation period was 6 days, but that changes all the
Sure.
time. I don't know. Yeah.
So, okay, let's say 6 days, right? Let's give it the longest possibility, right?
Right.
6 days is far shorter than 2 months.
Right.
So, nothing would happen. But in our current situation, you can fly from Germany to the United States in 9 hours, right?
Yeah.
That's well within that 6 day window. And so you were able to get people moving around the world quickly. So you had a vector that could transmit. You had a disease that was like in its incubation and infective period within the vector transit, like the vector travel time. And you have a disease that is very good at sort of either evading or replicating quickly and actually getting into a symptomatic or asymptomatic like transmissible state.
Right.
So we have this hot sort of combination of all the stuff that came together. And then, the kicker on top of that is we didn't have an effective way to treat or test for it.
Yeah.
Right. So we couldn't really restrict people. And then, on the side, we also had people who were lying to people being like, hey, it's not that big a deal when they knew it was a big deal and they were dumping stocks. Right.
Yeah.
So it's like we had this perfect storm of bad events that resulted in a pandemic. 1918, perfect storm of bad attributes that turned into a pandemic. 1980s HIV, perfect storm of bad events that turned into a pandemic. Like, it's sort of, these pandemics occur, it's again probability, right? It's all like probability converging on an event.
Yeah.
It's kind of amazing. It's like,
Man, that is really interesting. That is that is really cool. Thanks
We
for
should-
explaining that.
Yeah, we should try to get an epidemiologist on this too.
Oh,
this-
Oh, I got two. We got two. Ravi's an epidemiologist, and my buddy at the CDC, I'm sure, would be willing to just sort of talk through this stuff.
Man, that would be awesome. And I'm being serious, and maybe we can, discuss the details on that. But I just thought even the way that you explained it, and I know that it's not exactly your field, but it makes sense, and it's really cool to hear about that. So maybe we can set it up later. It would be great if we can put something together.
Yeah, I can ask them and see if they are willing to.
Yeah, exactly.
talk about
Again,
this, right? It's kind of-
if they're even, that might be the thing, man. Like, people must be exhausted too of
talking it every day to
Yeah.
everybody.
I mean, I'm honestly tired of hearing about it, and then I catch myself, just like now, bringing up questions. But I was telling Mark on it, like my girlfriend is a nurse and she works in a hospital, and I mean, just all the stuff that she tells me about it adds to my anxiety. I can only imagine really what she's going through. So,
Oh yeah.
I just want to, if we can set it up, great, and if not, in either case, we'll see.
I've got the one friend, Andre. He's I guess, epidemiologist.
Yeah. He would be another good addition to this thing, and the rest of us, people who don't know as much, can just sit back and listen and watch them debate, and that'd be fantastic.
I would love to, man. That sounds like a good time. So
You're in the right crowd with Raju here. He knows a lot of scientists. So
no, that's awesome, man. That would be
like,
great.
I'm starting to know them working, where I work, but
Yeah,
not like Raju.
awesome. All right, well, going back to a more cheerful topic.
Let's do it, man.
Let's see. This is from the pile of the somewhat difficult questions. Let's see. Okay. Again, because we don't know each other, but have you ever slid into someone's DMs? Any techniques you want to share?
Oh, this is a great question because so my wife and I met when we were in grad school, right? And that was so we've been together for 10 years now. Well before this whole like, sliding into people's DMs sort of situation ever came up. And what we like to talk, so we have a lot of friends who kind of are in the field right now, are playing the game, fighting the good fight, if you will. And it's like, every night we're out with them and we talk about what they go through. We like come home and we're like, God damn it, if I had to do this all over again at this age in this like environment, I would be alone forever. So that's my answer to that. No,
No,
never had to.
it's a fair point, man. I think if you don't mind me asking, how old are you, man?
I'm 31.
Okay, yeah, I'm 31 as well. I mean, I think that I have it was before cell phones or anything, like way back when there was MSN Messenger. I don't know if that or ICQ. Like,
Yeah, sure, I got you. Yeah.
yeah, I do remember when I was in high school. I pretty much not that I came up with it, but like no one at school knew it, and I had like a phishing type of program that made you sign your, like it looked like the screen and every time everything that they would type in, I would get their information and then play pranks on them. Or at that time, I didn't use it for things that, again, I was just young and stupid. But I think a couple of times I sent messages from this girl's account to another dude playing a prank, like I like you and all this stuff. So,
Damn.
but that's the closest thing I've done that is kind of messed up. And again, way back, even before, this was probably like 2006 or something like that. So,
That
anyways,
sounds about the right time frame for that.
yeah. What about you, Mark?
Yeah, no, I've definitely done it in the past, and it's not worth it. Like it's just so much easier not to worry about that stuff. But I will, if you ask for suggestions as well. That's just, the suggestion is close it back down the way it was originally before you leave it. Like like, oh, what, that wasn't open when I went to
Oh,
sleep.
right.
Like, oh, now it's open. Why is it open? But yeah, I don't even that doesn't even like cross my mind anymore. At all.
Not at
0%.
this age, man. I think that.
Nothing. Don't give a flying shit about what people do on their things. But I do have a question from the live Facebook. It says, are people worried because they are scared of the COVID, or do they not really trust the government? This is only week 2. What happens in another 2 weeks? And Raji.
So here's my opinion on it, right? Like, I was, again, as a lifelong skeptic, right? I was a little bit skeptical in the beginning, but at the same time, I have people who are older that I really care about. Therefore, I was like, even though my skepticism and my opinion at that time, where I was like, oh, people are just sort of like being whipped up into a frenzy for no reason, I was like, I care about these people, so I'm going to do what I can to social distance anyway, right? Like, that's the healthy balance between being arrogant and also being careful. But I think in 2 weeks from now, we'll get to a state where either all of the skeptics and the deniers and all the people who think that this isn't that big a deal will actually see that it was a bigger deal than we actually expected. And then we'll become aware of the fact that some of the messaging that was passed to them from, people in government and elsewhere was actually motivated by the same things that they're normally motivated by: self-preservation, hanging on to political power, and their own economic, success kind of thing. And I think we'll see that that's true. And if people are smart, we'll sort of like, take notice and make change. But the bigger thing is that I think people will sort of start to see like, where there's failures in our infrastructure and how our infrastructure hasn't really changed that much since like since World War II, and how we need to make those sorts of changes, both at the government level as well as, a personal level. And that's kind of where I see it. I don't know. I mean, was that an answer to that question? I have no idea.
I think it was, man. Like, and I do happen to agree with. I think that. I mean, especially with Mexico, it's just embarrassing. I mean, like, I even just thinking about it, like before I say it, I'm like, should I even say this? But I understand. First of all, this is for people that are not scientists, or I think for everyone, man. It's hard to believe that this is happening, and so for politicians, it can easily be seen as a strategy to affect certain political systems, or whatever. In Mexico, the president was literally telling everyone that this was a hoax and that you should go out and kiss each other, and because in Latin culture you say hello
Yeah.
with a kiss on the
Yeah.
cheek, and hug each other, and people were upset, and honestly, at first I thought like, what if he's right? What if this ignorant bastard is actually right? And like this is just nothing to, so I get it, but now we're getting to a point that I think all those people are gonna start coming around, because you cannot deny it, man. Like you see it firsthand. I see it with my girlfriend. Like her unit is filled with people. Like the hospital gets people every day. 12 nurses in her unit have tested positive, and we're gonna reach that point where it's just gonna be undeniable.
And you said that they converted the lobby into an ICU room.
Yeah. So I didn't see
Oh,
it
man.
myself, but like she takes the subway, every day, and I've been driving her just, for one, because I can, because I'm not, like I'm not going into work, but two, just to minimize any risk of her getting it, and I drop her in the lobby. Everyone's wearing, their mask like the whole time. Which if you wore an N95 mask before, I have for work and whatever. It's a pain in the ass to wear those things, man.
They're incredibly uncomfortable.
They are, and so she was telling me we have to wear them constantly. Everyone's wearing it in the lobby, and again, I didn't see the beds or whatever, but what she told me was that the whole lobby was turned into an area with beds. Like they sterilized it and everything, because they're expecting the next week they're not gonna be able to take more patients. And like she keeps, this is gonna sound messed up, but I almost, of course, I would never do this, but like I almost want to tell her sometimes when she's texting me at work. She works the night shift, and it's like the middle of the night, and she'll be like, "Man, like we just got this patient. We admitted him at 8 p.m. and by 2 a.m. we had to put him in a ECMO. Is that ECMO or what? It's like what goes next after a ventilator. Like it literally does everything for your lungs. And he's
Okay.
yeah, and so she's just telling me that this is a young guy. Like we did not expect for this to evolve like in a matter of hours and that quickly. Like he's a person like you and me. He seems to be in good shape, and it's just scary stuff that I almost want to tell her like, don't tell me this crap. But of course I'm not gonna do that, because she needs to let some of this frustration.
She needs to vent.
Yeah. And I don't want to be the person that is like, well, I'm at home, like you're dealing with this firsthand. But it's definitely, you cannot deny this anymore. I mean, it's as real as it gets.
They're building external morgues right outside the hospitals in New York City. Like they can't fit the dead bodies in the hospitals anymore. So they're building refrigerators outside in these tents to bring the dead bodies just to put them in there. Like
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And like, so the news, and I don't know what news people watch because I haven't had cable in forever, but the news might not be showing like that devastation. They're showing the outside of the hospital, show the inside, show what's going on with those morgues,
Well, and that's the thing, is that like, in retrospect now, you look back and you see that, certain presidents have tweeted out / made comments being like, oh, it's a hoax to try and like, keep me out of power or whatever. And then it's just sort of like when culture shifts, there's this dynamic like, 1 week flip where everybody's like, oh my God, look, it's a problem, like stay at home. Like, what is it? Connecticut, New Hampshire, and New Jersey have been like, New York, Connecticut, and New Jersey have been put on like a statewide quarantine kind of situation, right? And it's like, and then they're like, oh, we've been taking it seriously the entire time. I'm like, but this is the thing, we live in a digital age where everything you say is recorded and put into like, and so we can track through that. And I think the biggest thing that people are going to see is that, I mean, it's I'm pro government. I'm pro smart government, right? I think that
me too.
We need something that is sort of like, pan individual to sort of help us sort of manage each other, because that's what we're seeing right now. It's the selfish individuals that are like, oh, plane tickets are cheap, or oh, I can go sit in a movie theater by myself, or screw it, this is a hoax, so I'm gonna throw a party, or I'm gonna like throw my kid's birthday party anyway and invite like 300 of their friends that have been cooped in, and all these people are showing up because they're like, this is important to me, this is what I need for my life. And I'm like, speaking of like world-ending events, in order for us to survive a world-ending event, we need to be able to think about ourselves beyond just ourselves, right?
Yep.
And it's very hard for humans, especially Western humans to sort of think about the greater good over the individual, unless you're from Germany. I mean, like, the Germans are very good at, like, thinking about society over self kind of thing. But, Americans aren't very good at that. Canadians are very good at it. And look, Canada's doing a little bit better.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, it just takes time. Sadly, what time is not what this virus. I mean, the virus took advantage of that, but literally, I think people are changing their mind even in the middle of
trying
it.
to, yeah.
But they didn't days ago. It literally just started like, oh, this is real. But it took them a month to figure out that this is real. So I don't think they're not on board. I think they just take a month to get on board, which is a month of spreading that was ridiculous. And now it's like, now it's ridiculous. And what people don't understand, I don't think, a lot of them don't, is we don't have a cure for this. There's no remedy for it. You can treat the symptoms. Like, you get sick, we can help you breathe. If your body decides to fix itself, you're good. If your body decides not to fix itself, you die. There's nothing medicine-wise that's going to pick a direction for you, except for the probability that there's a chance you're going to die. You know what I mean?
Like, we can shift that probability. But
people think, oh, just go to the hospital, I'll be fine. Get sick early, I'll be fine. Like, no, the only thing the hospital can do is help you breathe. That's it. Yeah. Right? I mean, I could be wrong. I'm not like a...
No, viruses are really, 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 really hard to treat, right? Like with bacteria, these like, monocellular organisms, single cellular organisms, we can like bomb the hell out of them with like,
antibiotics.
Assuming we have like, functional antibiotics.
Right.
Whole other can of worms. But like, viruses, it's like, Theraflu was kind of an amazing thing when it was able to sort of work through that. When we figured out antiretroviral therapies for, HIV, that was like it was a world like changing event, right? Like when we figured that out, when we saw that there was something that we can target, it's amazing. But viruses are, it's really hard to sort of provide consciousness to a virus, but viruses are sort of designed to evade and evolve and survive. Like a virus's primary mode is infect, replicate, infect, replicate, infect, replicate, and they'll do whatever they can to infect and replicate. And we have to figure out ways to treat that. And right now we don't have great ways to block viruses.
Yeah.
And yeah. Like Mark was saying, we can treat the symptoms. If you can't breathe, we'll put you on a ventilator. But what happens when the ventilators run out? A buddy of mine that I was talking to was like, he's an actual MD, and he was saying that like, some of the cases out of Italy where we have one ventilator and two patients. Who do I give the ventilator to? And the question is, at that point is, who do I let die? Who do I try and keep alive?
Well, if I hope that I'm not misquoting, and I think she said that for the Chicago hospital. So again, I want to make the clause that I'm not 100% sure she meant her hospital, but I think so. My girlfriend told me that they did that. Like yesterday, they had to do that. Like they had to put two people in one ventilator. Like she was even describing like that there was this device that like to device like the function of it or whatever.
Yeah.
So
splitter.
I think that's happening here, man. Like again, we don't have the infrastructure for what's coming.
And this is where it's important to sort of flatten the curve, right? Like if we can keep hospitals in a state where they can handle the load of patients, then we're better. But that takes a lot of effort from humans to be like, you know what? Again, I'm an extrovert. I need people. I crave people, right? It's driving me nuts. But it's like, at the same time, I don't want to be responsible for spreading it to 20 other people who spread it to 20 other people so that, like, I accidentally kill my grandfather.
Yeah, man.
I don't want to do that. Or my niece. Right? Man, I don't want to kill a 6-year-old. I don't want to kill an 80-year-old. I don't want anybody to die because I was too arrogant to stay at home. Stay at home. It's not going to kill you. And if you think that staying at home is going to kill you, then...
Another thing that people don't get is the projections, the models are saying that 40 to 60 or 70% of Americans will get this virus.
Yeah.
Of those, about 20% of them will be hospitalized. You will have to go to the hospital. 20% of 40 to 70% of all Americans will have to go to the hospital. That's a shit ton of people.
Yeah, that would mean that's like, let's say like 10% of 300. That's 350,000 people, man. That might have to be hospital. That is
in the hospital. Yeah. Of course, of that, there's going to be some deaths, but I don't think people understand. Like 1 out of 5. So if you have a family of 5, if you happen to get it, one of your children are going to go to the hospital for sure. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like there's no question. Mathematically, based on the models, you have a family of 5. you have a problem. I did the math the other day in my head. Just it's all stupid, like wild ass guess math. But it was like you have a 10% chance. If you have a family of 5, you have a 10% chance that your child or somebody in your family will die.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Again, 10% of
Some shit like hospitalized.
350 million. And I said 350,000. I meant 3
Yeah,
million
you're. I was gonna
500.
say you're,
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
off by a factor of 10. I was about to correct you.
Yeah, thank you. You should have. I meant to say 3 million. Sorry.
You got there. You're good.
But that's a shitload of people, man. Even 350,000 is a shitload of people. And the point of the fact is that they will need to be hospitalized. That doesn't mean that they will be hospitalized. Like that is the thing, right? Like it just means that they will need to. Whether they have the resources or the availability is there is a whole different thing. So if they're not able to get the medical attention, then they will. I mean, as shitty as that sounds, they will maybe perish. They maybe I don't know, but it's fucked up.
Well, we got a lot of people saying, fuck it. If you can't survive it, then I guess survival of the fittest. But like, I don't go by that at all. But I see that on my Facebook a lot.
Well, and the thing is that all right, okay, like let's talk about Darwinism a little bit, right? Yes, survival of the fittest, and that's how humanity evolves, and that's how all species evolve forward, right? But the one important thing to remember is one of the evolutionary steps that we took as humans was the ability to manipulate our environment to maximize our survivability, right?
Right.
Which means that based on like Darwinist principles, we've gotten to a point where we can sort of manipulate Darwinist principles. It's not like a fuck it, if it's a 10% death rate, I guess that's just the way the world works. No, that's the point of being an intelligent, like conscious organism, is that we can manipulate our environment. By that standard, it's sort of like a chimpanzee being out and being able to sort of provide itself shelter during a storm so it doesn't like float away when the river floods, or like whatever, right? That shouldn't have occurred. We shouldn't have been able to like harness fire. It's such a reductionist ass way to think about stuff, and it's a safety mechanism, right? People are like, oh well, I can't do anything about it, so I might as well live my life. I'm like, well, if that was the case, you would be outside in a blizzard naked,
Right.
right?
Yeah, that's a good point.
That's not a choice you're making. So why don't you make this choice to stay at home?
I like it. That's great.
Yeah, that is yep, that's a pretty good way to put it. I get it because it is not as easy, but I guess it's someone who is an extrovert can make the decision. And again, man, Roger, you're I think everyone here might be a little bit more educated than some other people maybe, but
Yeah.
like that's a big part of the problem, man. Like there's this again, what is what we were just discussing. People don't see the reality of it. They think that this might be a conspiracy. And even when they see it, maybe even when they understand, they think like, oh, they're just being overreactive. So we don't need to take it as seriously. So we can still go out. We can do. And there's a lot of questions, man. A friend of mine, a close friend of mine who lives in Portland was telling me, he's like, it's my girlfriend's birthday. And I want to... I can tell that this has been hitting both of them, mentally. And he was like, I want to get her pizza from this place that she loves. But that is not a reason. I don't need to go out. We have a full house, filled, stocked with food and whatever. Should I do it? And if I do it, should I feel guilty about it? And I didn't really have an answer for him because I was like, well, it's your girlfriend's birthday. It's not like you're going to go out and party. You're just going to go pick out a pizza. But you're right. Like the point is that if that is increasing the chances, that really can make such a big impact. If you have it and you give it to that person who is handling the pizza, and then that can spread it to so many other people. It just
the thing that cracks me up is I was at CVS because we ran out of food. I had to go pick some stuff up, right? And the cashier at CVS has gloves on. Okay, cool. She's wearing her gloves and
not changing them after every use.
Right. Yeah, exactly. That was exactly the thing that I was like looking at her and I was like, okay. An older lady gave her cash, right? Dug in her wallet, brought out cash. Cash is a huge problem,
yeah,
right? It's kind of
sure.
Cash is a migratory vector, and a lot of businesses around here have gone cashless. But takes the cash, does whatever, types on the little cash register, gives her a receipt. My turn. I hand her my stuff. She picks it up with the same gloved hand. I cashless pay on my phone, but I'm holding that, bag of food, and I go home and I'm like, shit, like, how many people has she interacted with those gloves on? Like, what's the probability that she has it on her gloves? What's the probability that I have it? And now I brought it into my apartment,
Yeah.
right? Like, and that was 4 days ago. I'm feeling fine. So
Right.
maybe I dodged the bullet. Maybe I'm a asymptomatic transmitter. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
And there's just so many. You have to make decisions, and you have to make these choices. And it's like, yeah, I would tell your friend, go get pizza for your girlfriend, wife, whatever. Bring it home, wipe down the pizza, wash your hands a bunch, and that's a calculated risk that you took. And if it was something that helps you stabilize your mental health, cool, right?
Yeah.
If it's important for your mental health, you have to make that choice a little bit.
And that's exactly what I said too, man. Like, the thing is, like, you have to consider that the mental health part of it is also kind of important here, man. Because if you truly isolate yourself to the point, and it's your girlfriend's birthday, man, like, you have to find your ways to to be happy through this process as well. Otherwise, you'll make mistakes later down the road. Your work will start suffering as well. But again, it's just not an easy answer. And like you said, I think you have to take a calculated risk. Probably the answer is also different from every individual. I mean, maybe you do really need to go get that pizza. For some
Like,
others, it's not.
It's just me and my wife, right? And it's like, if one of us gets sick, the other person can take care of us or whatever, and we can get to a hospital and stuff. If I had 3 kids under the age of like 12, I would make pizza at home.
There you go.
Right? Because at that point, you have 5 people that you can get infected. And
There
let's
you
say it's just me and my wife, but I'm living with my grandparents, my grandfather just turned 80 last week, right?
Oh,
I 100% would not go outside
yep.
at that point unless absolutely necessary.
No, man, it's interesting that you bring it up. And again, this conversation is going a little bit
Dark.
yeah.
Dark.
But there's two things. One, without going into specific details, my mom has a condition called Wolff-White Parkinson syndrome, which is a heart condition. So
Okay.
She's definitely, in the on top of that, she's 64 or 63, and my dad is 76. So they're in the high risk areas. And again, in Mexico, it seems like they finally, they are starting to close businesses. They finally took it seriously, but it's gonna hit harder. And like, pretty much I've been telling her, listen, like, I know my sister is coming from her house to your house. If you guys want to interact with each other, if you guys are really gonna quarantine, you might want to have to ask my sister to move in with you guys for a little bit, because I don't feel comfortable with her. Like, at the end of the day, she has to
Traveling back and forth.
Yeah, it is that. And then the other part was a member of my family, who I don't think matters if I say who, but a close member of my family. Her best friend was in a car crash accident 2 days ago, or yes, Friday. I mean, it was Friday, so 2 days ago, and so the car accident was significant, but she tested positive for COVID-19, developed pneumonia, and died. Again, she died because of the car accident, but she had the corona, and obviously that affected her recovery and whatever. So it's getting to a point that again, that it's again, I think that you just have to make those decisions, man. We have to take it with that seriousness.
Well, I think what would be really, and this is the last thing I say, and I think we should take another question.
Yeah.
It's this, right? I think it's really important for everyone to do a vector map, right? A vector network, or a network map kind of thing, where it's like, you put yourself in the middle and you say, here, I can sketch one out really quickly if my pen will work. It's sort of like you say, here's me in the middle of this vector map, and I'm interacting with, like, let's say my wife. All right, cool. That's one node out. And let's say I interact routinely in the face-to-face with my friend who lives in DC, and he just interacts with me and my wife. So that vector map is only 3 people, and like, my infective potential is 2 at the max, and that's sort of where it ends, right? But let's say my buddy who lives in DC interacts with 5 other people, and one of those 5 other people interacts with 5 other people. So it's sort of like, my infective potential expands exponentially, because as I pass it along, it passes out. So if you can build a small vector map and you sort of like hang out with the same 6 people who who only hang out with the other 5 people in this like same 6-person map, then your infective potential is low and you're getting
Of course.
face-to-face human interaction. But people don't think about it this way. They're like, oh, I'm hanging out with this person today and this other person this other day. And I'm like, well, that person's hanging out with those 30 other people. And this
Exactly.
person's hanging out with those 30 other people. My sister's the same way. She lives in Philadelphia. My parents live in southern Pennsylvania. She keeps driving back and forth between her husband, who's in Philadelphia, and my parents. My dad is 60 plus, and my mom is like just under 60, but they're both very healthy. But I'm like, okay. Luckily, my brother-in-law is an extreme introvert, so it's like, he's talking to like himself.
Right.
So that's like it's a short vector map.
Damn.
But I'm like, yo, you're like driving back and forth. Like, what if you stop at a gas pump and
That
somebody
is my
has infected
concern.
that gas pump? Like,
Exactly. That is that, because I know my sister she's actually promoting it's like don't go out, like she's into it. But I'm like, the point is that you can still get it. Like, I mean, you still have to go get groceries. You still and you're talking to my parents. Like, I mean, there is that tiny that point. I do a lot of risk management. It's part of my job, and like you just never. That doesn't matter what is the probability. Like, you always try to do it. Is there a risk? Yes. And what people say is like, well, but it's a 2% risk. Well, it's a 0.01% risk. It's like, that is still a really high risk. Like, I mean, it's not.
right? Would you walk out in the street if you knew that there's a 2% chance that somebody might shoot you in the face?
Of course not.
Of course
But
not.
and again,
How long? In what period of time? Now, if that 2% was for 2 weeks, I'd stay in for 2 weeks. But if that 2% was 2 months, I'd go out and get some shit and take that 2% chance. So it does depend.
No, you're right. You're right. It is a time dependent risk, right?
Of course.
It's risk over time. Risk over time is always important to calculate.
But I'll put it this way, Mark. We do in industrial safety programs. Again, pretty much if like working with a machine that might jam and that might amputate a finger or something. If you have a 0.01% chance running it one day, you should not do it. OSHA will find it. Like, I mean, you should not take those risks. And that's kind of how I see it. Like, if I know that there's that risk that my parents could die, which is pretty much, dude, if there was 1 in 1,000 probability chance that my parents could die just because I went to get something and then I would go visit, of course I would not take it. So I think that everyone should see it that way. And I know it might seem excessive, but I really don't think it is in the...
My mom's a little annoyed that I didn't come up to visit her because I think 2 days ago was I'm South Indian New Year. My mom was like, it's very important to her to have her family around when that happens. And I was like, you know what? We'll like reconvene later. I owe her a birthday dinner. I owe her an anniversary dinner. I owe my sister a birthday dinner. They owe me an anniversary dinner. It's like, and I'm like, you know what? We'll do this in July.
Yeah,
necessary.
it is what it is.
That's
Yeah.
fine.
You have
Risk over time.
have to make those decisions, and I understand that is tough, but there's all these memes and funny videos but I do think I identify myself because I've been telling my mom's like, you're not going to work, you're like all this crap, and I saw this video of a guy like telling that to his parents, like he's like, you're not going out, like we would turn into our parents in this type of situation,
Right.
But it's crazy. Like people are, what is it? Some news programs are blaming millennials, and it's like, and I saw somebody respond to that being like, no, millennials are the ones screaming at our boomer parents who watch Fox News to stop going to church.
Exactly.
We're all like, hunkered down in our homes watching Netflix. All right, man. New question. Let's do this.
Okay.
I mean, I'm good with. I like the COVID questions, but we don't have to go.
No, I do, and we can revisit.
I'm sure they'll come back up.
But yeah, that's what I was gonna say. We can
Yeah.
revisit, but let's change it for a second because it is good material, man. I do enjoy it. I do need a break from it for a second. On a not that much more cheerful, but it's a different, better type of question. Have you ever stolen anything? What and why? Do you still have it?
Oh, yeah. No, I remember what it was. I've only ever done it once in my life, and I was like 5, and we were out somewhere. I think it was like at a Kmart or something, and there was a little army man that was on the floor, and I don't remember if it was like, it was somebody had dropped it or if it was like come off the shelf, and I picked it up, and I was like sitting in the back of my dad's car, and my dad looks in the back rearview mirror and sees it, and he's like, what is that? And then I had to explain to him what it was, and then I got a talking to about stuff, and he drove me back to the Kmart and made me walk back in the middle, put it down on the customer service counter, say sorry, and walk back
Yeah.
up. Never stole anything in my life.
Damn.
Man, that's the right thing to do. Good for your dad, man.
Dude, it was, oh my god, I'm scarred. I still remember it, right?
That's
the
embarrassing.
The humiliation at that age is even worse, right? Like for some reason you just feel like you don't understand that it's just the right thing to do. But yeah, that will make you not steal ever again.
It was nuts.
What about you, Mark?
So, two things. One, when I was a kid, you used to have those grocery stores that have like the integrity. You put a quarter in, you can get 5 pieces of candy because it's 5 cents each. I never stole from that. My brother and sister stole every time. They put a nickel in, pretend it was a quarter, get 5 pieces. I never did that. But what I did do, there was these gumball machines, and you can take bread tabs, like the thing that holds the bread together, cut it like you can cut it like in half almost, and you can slip it in and you turn it and it acts like a quarter and you get a free gumball. So I stole those. And then the other thing was, if you think about like as an adult, just pure like torrent and like software and videos and shit.
Oh yeah.
So
well,
really, I never stole anything significant, but I have a lot of stories about people that did.
Yeah. No.
Yeah. I forgot about the torrenting.
Yeah, I was about to
Yeah.
say, like, I mean, if
But-
we go to that, like, I've stolen years of information.
But I will. But I mean, that was like college and being stupid and stuff. But it's like, but now, so my wife and I actually have a deep discussion about this. Back when we couldn't afford to buy music and stuff, like, 'cause we literally had no money, right? Like,
Right.
couldn't afford it. Then I didn't. The minute I had a little bit of cash to buy CDs and stuff, I would go out and buy them on sale. I still buy physical CDs, like,
Oh,
because
wow.
I like having them. And like,
Wow.
so now it's like we don't torrent music or movies. Like I'll torrent a movie if I already own it, because like that's the weird DCM, like that's the DCMA loophole, right?
Yeah.
Instead of me ripping it because it's for personal use, like I'll do that. But it's like, but now it's like, I will go out and buy Blu-rays. I will go out and buy those movies because I appreciate what they've created for me. But yeah, I forgot about torrenting in college.
No, I have to say you're definitely a better person than I am, because definitely don't steal music. But like, I pay for Spotify. I think that is just worth the fact that if I can Shazam something and play it. But I would say while we have Hulu, Prime, and Netflix, even then, man, like many times I have Netflix in the movies in Netflix. I will still torrent. I'm just so used. Like when I moved to the U.S. For college, I could not afford anything, so like I got into torrents, and I have a whole system set up, and it's just very comfortable and very easy to me, to the point that my girlfriend now uses it, and yeah, maybe it's not a good idea to put it in a stream or whatever, but I definitely torrent the heck out of everything you can think of. So now maybe I'll reflect on this and change. Probably
Yeah,
not.
I mean, it's sort of like, at some point, if you can sort of give back. I again, like, I'm still scarred from that 6-year-old event, right? But it's also like, I kind of, though this is kind of it's so funny to me. Scientists are some of the most superstitious people I know, because we kind of like get into these rhythms and we get superstitious about things, even though we're doing like empirical work. But one of my big superstitious things is karmic justice. Like, I want to
Yeah.
feed the machine more than I'm taking out, and maybe that's why I haven't sort of like, self-immolated on like a street
No.
yet, right?
I
And this
get
is
it.
one of those cases where I'm like, I'm going to feed the machine here so that I don't get like, a brick hurled through my face.
I get it. I'll be honest. Like for me, it's even like the thing is I upload and traffic with so much content that a couple of times I've reached my data cap. So like like I said, even if I have Netflix, not that this is not an excuse by any means. Like I should not be even justifying it. But like the point is, if I know that we're gonna watch a movie 3 times, like I have a little one, so like we watch Back to the Future 3 times, I prefer to have it, in my cloud hard drive and just put it so
Pop
so
it, yeah.
so we're not using the data, and I always like rationalize it that way. Again, it's not an excuse, and you're right. Like when you're saying like that, like I don't have a reason, I can afford it. I should just probably, if I believe in some, I'm not religious by any means or anything, but I do believe in some sort of karma. Then I might be getting what comes down my way if I've been doing it for so long.
Yeah.
So maybe I need to change something. That's a
And
good point.
you should always support movies you care about, because then they'll make movies you care about, and it won't be like Tyler Perry's Medea Goes to Prison 6. Like, you know what? Okay. It's because I won't do this, right? But you know what? Everyone should steal Tyler Perry's like Medea Goes to Prison 6 because that guy is blaxploitation to its max.
No shit.
We need to punish him. Have you guys ever seen the show My Name is Earl?
Oh
Yeah,
man, I
yeah.
love that show. It was so sad that it got canceled.
It's so I know, right? But it's so funny. One of my favorite episodes is Earl ends up trying to like make up to this one guy who he's kind of just an asshole, right? And he's like, Earl would like do something nice for him, and the guy would turn around and do something terrible, and then like Earl would end up having to do something terrible because the guy would piss him off to like no end, right? And the episode ends in the funniest way, and I crack this joke to my wife all the time, right? It's kind of like, in the end, he does something, the guy does something back, and he ends up punching him in the face, right? Just putting him out, and like he's just sort of like, man, it's like this is the hardest person that I've ever had to like repay or whatever. And like Earl's brother, the big guy, he's just like sitting there and he's just like, well, maybe you can't pay this person back. And then like Earl goes through this process where he goes, you know what? I guess karma doesn't have any fists to punish people, and I guess I'm the fist of karma.
I remember that episode, man, where he
It's
has all
such a-
those sticky notes and whatever. Like,
Yeah, so good.
Get the list.
Like,
get
yeah,
the
you know
list, right?
Yeah, it's a great show. It was so fun.
oh, it was great, man. I agree. Super sad that it got, but anyways, I don't know how we got to My Name is Earl. Did we
Because
all answer
looks
the
like-
question? What was
Robbie-
the question?
Ravi's on now.
Yeah, I've been listening in for a little while. Like, I've been taking notes and will be sending it to the authorities.
Oh yeah, well, help yourself.
Yeah, I think I'm the only one in trouble here, so it's all
Yeah.
good.
No,
I can't stay on for long, but I got Hangouts set up on my phone so I can do this in the future. I guess you're Daniel. Daniel,
Yes, sir. What's your name?
my name is Ravi or Ravi.
Ravi. Okay, nice to meet you, man.
Nice to meet you. Where are you located?
I'm in Chicago.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. The three of
I guess
you
you're
in
streaming
Washington.
this.
Sorry.
I guess you're streaming this.
Yeah. No, I'm actually. You ask if I'm streaming this? Yeah, I am.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
Oh.
Mark is as well. Don't worry. Like right now, like my channel has like 0. No one is watching this yet.
I was just curious who you're streaming it to. Like,
Yeah, no,
Facebook.
it's just Facebook and that's it. But I don't think there's anyone watching yet. So no worries. But
So- Yeah, so watch what you say a little bit, I guess. That's the only thing we can say.
exactly, pretty much.
In Maryland, I think you have to tell people you're being recorded or whatever. So
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, so you know the drill. Like we're asking some questions, and you don't have to
Okay.
answer. If you don't answer, it's a little bit too early to be drinking, but you're more than welcome to take a drink, or if
Yeah.
not, you can just take a hard pass.
no, I actually have to go get some things done, and so
Hey,
yeah, I have
Not a
not started
problem.
drinking yet.
you have to go hang out with people, socialize, and do all these things that are open.
Exactly. Yeah. You know, I gotta go and sneeze on the people at the nursing home.
Oh, boy.
took it to an extreme there. All right.
Took a left turn down hardcore.
All right. So here goes another question for everyone. These are just too personal for people that know each other. One second.
They're not I thought so it's not a series of questions that people answer once they get on. It's something in general for everyone.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, some of these questions are tailored for friends or whatever. And since we just friends that know each other from a while ago, and since we just met each other, they don't apply. So I'm modifying as we go. But here it goes. Okay, so have you ever stabbed someone in the back or actively plotted against them?
Everyone's played Monopoly.
I think this question goes a little bit further than that. Like, because not just Monopoly, but
against-
I don't think so. Like,
I don't
Yeah.
think so either, man.
Yeah, I can't think of a situation.
I've never actively tried to make sure someone fails, but I think I've seen people going in the direction of failure and let them continue on their own. You know what I mean?
Teaching
Like,
moments, though.
like I didn't stop them, I'm sure. I mean, I can't even think of an example, but I can imagine me like, you know what? I don't like these motherfuckers. Like, let them do their thing. And I know that it's wrong. I'm just not going to say anything. So I actively not said something. I'm sure I've done that. I just can't think of an example.
Okay.
Been somebody
I
that-
think I've probably maybe tried to stop people from making mistakes when I thought that well, I'm thinking about this. Like, well, there was a situation recently where I thought that where I was working was potentially making a mistake regarding some hiring decisions and stuff, and like I I ended up not doing anything, but like I don't know if I've what I don't know if like well, I think there's I don't think I've been in many positions where I thought that because I think there's definitely weird things that go on with like hiring and stuff.
It's a good point. And
Like, well, I mean, where we are,
Right.
that brings up
and so like it yeah, although like I don't know what it's like like one thing that I will say is that and I've talked about this with colleagues at work, and I think that so I think if you work in a place where there's a perception of a lack of accountability and transparency, I think people tend to gossip.
Oh.
And because I think that it's actually a way of people feeling they can have accountability. Like,
Yeah.
because they perceive a lack of accountability, and so people talk about stuff that has gone on.
That hit
I don't
hard,
think
man. That's
pardon me?
true. That hit hard. You keep preaching, man, because you're right.
Yeah, yeah.
You're right.
Well, and I think that like I don't think I've done it. I don't think I've like I don't think I've ever like said anything malicious. But I think when things have arisen and people have asked what's happened in the past, I've relayed what has happened in the past with like histories that people may not know.
Yeah.
right.
And but I don't know, like, and other places I've worked, I think it either we didn't. I did not perceive us doing that, or didn't. I think there was a little bit of that, but much less. And I think it was the same sort of thing, where if people thought that somebody was getting away with something that they thought they shouldn't, and it was either unfair or there was a lack of accountability or a lack of transparency, I think people would talk. I'll stop there.
No, that's fair. I hate now that you said it that way. It makes me feel a little bit guilty and maybe now bad. But I always felt I have a folder in my Outlook called incompetence.
Yeah.
And I literally like those people
Oh
that
my
never
God.
reply back, or I send like red receipts and I know they're not even opening the email or whatever. I put every little copy in there so that if shit hits the fan, I can tell them, listen, I tried to contact this person. I called them this time. Like I'm that type of person, man. I do log that stuff. Now I never acted on it, but it does drive me crazy. And you're right, like.
Well, and one thing I've learned, like, is if you make a threat, you have to act on it. Like, I think if you make a threat and you don't act on it, it comes back to bite you. I think is what, like I found where, like, I think that like, where I think somebody I was working with, I felt wasn't doing what they were supposed to do, and I like kind of like gave them some feedback and like kind of said, well, you know, I may need to go and talk to someone about this. And like, and I figured hopefully that'll be it. And it'll like, but I felt like they retaliated.
Well, yeah.
And so I think like if you end up making like a threat, you end up having to go through with it because if you like, there hasn't been many instances of this, and there's been maybe just like, I mean, it may just be like once or twice, but I think that I think on hindsight, I was like, I should have did what I said, because otherwise, what ends up happening is you think that
you lose
learn their lesson
credibility,
and and you think that they're good faith actors, but I think what they end up doing is they harbor it, and then they
they retaliate.
Yeah.
Yep.
And even if they're retaliating from a position where they made the error, and so
Yep. That was a loaded question for you, Robbie.
yeah.
Robbie's got feelings.
That did remind me of something, though.
Go ahead, Mark.
So like, if you have a friend that has a really good close friend or a wife or something that wants a job, and she finally gets on the hiring manager's desk, and I'm just like, hell no. Like, I had to tell my boss, I was like, do not hire this person. Like, it's my friend's. I don't want to go too far.
Yeah.
I'm like, do not hire this person.
Self-preservation.
I was actively trying to not let that happen, and only did it once. But those opportunities don't come up very often. We're like, hey, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna hire these 3 people. What do you think about this person? I'm like, fuck that.
And I wouldn't even
What,
consider that a stabbing in the back. You know,
It was my friend's buddy.
Well, but were they incompetent, or was it because there was something that you didn't want them working that close?
Incompetent as hell. Like, couldn't do shit. Worthless. It would have been a net loss for the entire organization. Absolutely.
Okay.
And I was
not like keeping friends and business separate, sort of thing.
Yeah,
because they would have been bad for.
Yeah. I've given referrals to a lot of people that I wasn't extremely happy about, but they weren't like awful, but people ask you for a recommendation. You're like, shit, I don't recommend you, but all right, I could throw something together. Like, I'm willing to go somewhat your direction, but with this particular person, I'm just like, not even close. I couldn't give any recommendation at all. I had to give a non-recommendation. But yeah, so I guess I stabbed him in the back.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but
but
I don't know.
Self-preservation.
Well, what did you tell them though?
I mean,
if they asked you, did you like tell them you were going to give them a going reservation, or were you like, hey, like, because I think if you stab someone in the back, that means you're stabbing them in the back. Like, they don't know
that you're anti them.
There's an aspect of deception.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I helped them get the resumes and the packages together for a job. And then when it landed on my organization's desk, that's when I was like, no, that's not, I'm not helping you at this point.
Yeah.
Because there was like, so the hiring manager gets like, 6 resumes. After it gets through all the other crap, OPM, blah, blah, blah. And then you get 6 resumes to look at. That's when the boss brings you in and says, does anybody know these people? Whether or not you think that's, even though it's completely wrong to do, it happens every single day, all day long, in all of life. And good luck getting rid of that bias. Like, it's difficult. I always wonder why they don't cut off the names on resumes and just put like an ID number. Say, here's the resume and the qualifications. But instead it was, here's the name. And I'm like, oh, I know that name, and do not hire that person.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it's partly because of what you said, where you can say, "Oh, I know that person. Don't hire them." Like, because people look different on paper than they do in real life, right? Like,
yeah.
I knew a girl in grad school who, like, when you looked at her resume, you were like, "Oh my god, like, this person's amazing." And then you spent like 3 months working with the person, and it was either one of those things where it's like either seppuku or murder. Like, you had to make a choice: either remove yourself or remove them. And it was kind of luckily that person removed themselves by doing some really dumb shit. But I'm trying to think. Like, I know of one situation where this could be counted as stabbing someone in the back. But when I was in high school, our tennis team, the way that your ranking in tennis would work was by playing different. Like, you played effectively every person on the team, and then like your score rating at the end would end up with your seeding number, and that seeding number would then result in who your doubles partners were and where you played within the ranking. and I was pretty good. Some of my friends were really good, and one of our friends who wasn't very good wanted to play in the same sort of like, pool as we were playing in. So we actively went out of our way to sort of throw specific matches and win other matches, manipulate the system to push that person to the bottom.
Why didn't you all just beat him?
Oh no, that's what I'm saying. Like, so we had to like beat and lose like in a specific structure, so that like we ended up like certain people ended up being doubles partners, because like we used to play independent of our tennis team, so that we knew who worked well together, and this person was just like the sticky wicket, and also like the loudmouth who would sort of be like no, like he would like sell us out on our system, so we had to just sort of like screw that kid over. But we like convinced him the entire time that we were trying to help him get into where he needed to be. But, I mean, that's some petty ass.
I think that may not only count as stabbing someone in the back. I think that might count as a conspiracy.
It was fantastic. You know what?
You could be Rico'd.
Don't step into the mafia if you can't play the game. We just leave the head of a tennis racket in his bed.
Such gangster talk for a freaking sport.
Our tennis team sucked.
With that, I actually do have to run.
All right,
but I'm totally up for this another time.
Sounds good.
And I'll be curious to hear what the other questions are.
Sounds good. Very nice to meet you, Ravi.
Yeah, nice meeting you, Daniel. And,
all right, catch you later.
Later.
Okay. Bye.
Yeah, what's cool is that this is becoming a little bit more common, because honestly, even in real life, before the COVID came, there was a lot of people I never connected with until after this happened, and you have no choice, you're bored. So I'm pretty glad that because I've been talking to Daniel a little bit because of our YouTube thing, but other than that, there's other friends I've reached out to that I would have never talked to on Facebook.
That's been a positive for sure.
Yeah, I think we're being forced to use this technology for what it was meant for, right?
Yep.
It's like, yeah, I mean, I actually called my grandfather more often now than I did before, because it was like before I took it for granted, but now I'm like, I got to make that phone call. He's all the way in India, and I have to, find a time that works for him, kind of thing.
Oh, for
and my
sure.
grandmother, I mean, they're both alive and together, which is, I'm lucky, but.
You have flawless English. Like, how old were you when you moved here?
5. I was really young.
That makes sense. Okay.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm still fluent in like Telugu, which is the southern Indian language, and semi-fluent in Hindi. It's terrible, but it's sort of like
you can get by.
It activates when necessary. Like I was in Delhi in August, and it was sort of like our taxi driver was supposed to speak English, and he did, but his English was worse than my Hindi, so I ended up speaking to him in Hindi, and it was fantastic. Like it's amazing how
But
anyway,
would you say your primary language is English then? Yeah.
It is now, especially because my wife doesn't speak any other language. She speaks Spanish, but like I don't speak Spanish. I speak French, so it's sort of like we can't really communicate on a romantic language level. So at home it's English. When I was a kid, my primary language was split between English and Telugu, because they say like whatever language you dream in is the language that you are effectively most fluent in.
Right.
And like now it's like 70-80% of the time I dream in English, but sometimes like other languages like flow in, and they're kind
of... I'd say it's the same for me between Spanish and English. So I mean, I get it. All right, let me do one more question. I need a refill real quick. Let's see. Feeling pretty good after 2 drinks.
I just brought the whole bottle.
Yeah, I should have done that, man. My apartment's not set up to have the bottle here. Give me one. Plus, my little kid might walk. He's playing with his friends and whatever, but I don't want him to see me with bottles, like talking to people. This is not right. Have you ever feared for your life or safety while drinking or on drugs? Take us to the scene. Wait. I need a drink for this one for sure. I'll be right back.
Oh, shit. I guess I can think about it.
Yeah, I got to think about this one too. Yeah, I got mine. and I can talk about it because I actually reported it positively on my security screening form, which is it also comes up with a very interesting second story.
Rough, rough. Yeah, my little story back in South Carolina. I'm like not looking forward to next time I have to fill one of those out. I'm like, damn it, I got to add that onto it. Fuck.
Do you? Because I guess it's
Because I was
Yeah, I
actually arrested. Yeah.
oh damn, yeah.
I guess
That's not
it's
gonna be
just.
fun.
I mean, it is streaming, but I don't. I'm very blunt and straight to the point, and I don't.
I
People
think
can-
it takes too much effort to hide things than to tell the truth and then explain yourself, kind of thing. Like it's
Yeah.
just is a. It's hard, right? It's sort of like I don't have the attention span to really maintain lies for that. Like I'm not good at it, and I have a face that people are like they can tell when I'm lying to them because it's just sort of like I guess I show it very easily. But I don't know. I've gotten better at it as an adult. When I was a kid, I wasn't supposed to be dating people, but I always I've had a girlfriend since high school and stuff, and I wasn't allowed to tell people, so I would always lie to my parents about that. And now that I don't have to lie to them about any of that stuff, I'm just so much happier. It's so much easier for me to be open with my family and my parents and all that stuff. It's kind of, I don't know, it's liberating. It kind of has really re-emphasized the value of just sort of being honest.
So,
All right. So what's up? Did I interrupt anything or?
Oh, no, we were just talking about the importance of honesty.
Okay.
Nothing important, nothing big.
Right.
in one ear and out the other.
That backstabbing question was loaded for Robbie, wasn't it?
Oh my god, did not expect that. When you meet Ravi in person, which maybe Mark you'll get to at some point soon, and Daniel if you're ever out this way, he's this just happy-go-lucky dude. It's he's
He
just
looks
this,
really cool, man. He seems cool guy.
Yeah, he's funny. He's just happy. He's just a happy, honest guy. And it's just kind of that story. Just is I totally see where he's coming from though.
That's awesome. It was awesome. It was great. All right. So the question was, have you ever feared for your life or safety while drinking or on drugs? Take us to the scene. Any takers who wants to answer first?
So this is what I was telling Mark. Mark is already is just chugging his glass.
I'm still thinking of mine.
So here we go. All right. So so when you get a federal job, right, they give you a security screen, and on that security screen you have to answer these sorts of questions have you ever done X or Y thing? Have you ever had a Schedule 1 drug? Marijuana counts, right?
Right.
And so I answered honestly because I was reading online and talking to other friends of mine who are federal employees, and they're they're looking for more of a question. They're asking these questions more to check to see if you could be potentially blackmailed in the future or whatever, right?
Okay.
And so they're hiding something is more dangerous than telling the truth. And it's also a federal form. I'm not going to lie in a federal form.
Right.
That's just dumb. I'm not doing that. I'm not going to go to jail for something stupid.
Right.
And so I answered yes on my form when they were you ever smoked marijuana? And I was like, yep. And the lady panicked. She was like, oh my god. She's like, I got to fill out new paperwork. And then it turned out that it was more than 7 years ago. And so she was just sort of oh, at that point she's like, it doesn't matter. But the way the question was worded, it said ever, not there was one component that said 7 years and there was one component that said ever. And so for ever I said yes, 7 years I said no. And so she was like, just say no next time. I'm like, are you actively telling me to lie in a federal form? She's like, I can't tell you what to do. But she was like, but this isn't worth it. And I was like, all right, you know what?
Yeah.
Whatever. But it was actually, this is the reason why I don't do any real drugs, because it's sort of marijuana, all these other things. I'm hypersensitive to medicine. I can't take a full dose of Excedrin. I have to take a half dose of Excedrin or else I throw up immediately. It's kind of
oh wow.
600 milligrams of ibuprofen, which is like the low end of what they give you when your wisdom teeth go out, make me loopy. I take that stuff and I'm sleepy 40 minutes later.
Really?
Which I was talking to an MD who's she's an opioid specialist at the FDA, and she was like, oh yeah, she's like, even ibuprofen is sort of it's an NSAID with like little to no side effects. She's like, some people just react funny, and that is one of the things that we've seen as a funny reaction with it. I get sleepy, like it's
Right,
not
which
that
is not a big
deal.
deal, but
I get a little confused and I fall asleep, which is perfect. But the last time I smoked marijuana, it was my senior year of college, so that was in 2010. So a long ass time ago. And my college roommates at the time, they were like, you've never like, like they were habitual smokers, and they were just sort of like, they were habitual smokers to the point where one of the first couple months that I'd spent in that house with them, I forgot to close my door when I went to bed, and I had a biochem problem set due at like 8 a.m, and I was so tired, I was like, I'm just gonna take this thing, I'm gonna work on it at 4 a.m. because like I tend to do math and like I think better like early in the morning, and
right.
so I'm like, I'm just gonna do it when I'm thinking better. So I left my door open, and the way that the airflow worked in that apartment, in that house, it flowed through my room. I woke up stoned out of my mind.
No,
I was like, oh
you
my
did
God.
not. Really?
I felt like I was so high because it was like I got hotboxed in my bedroom, so I learned to like close my door and open, like there was a window on the other side of the hallway. That when that window was open, the airflow went that way, not through my room.
Right.
And so eventually spring break, they were like. They were like, it was the night before spring break, and they're like, all right, like you keep putting this off. They're like, we kind of like a bonding thing. This is like second semester. I didn't really have that much going on. They were like, smoke with us. And I was like, all right, fine. Like I'm driving to Florida the next day. We're leaving at like 4 a.m. I was like, what's the worst that can happen? This is like around 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night. And I'm like, all right, sure. I'll sit down with you guys. So they were like, this is a special event. So they pulled out their bong that they called the Thunderdome, which was they had been out to like Vegas a couple of months before and had picked up some of those like really big tower drinks, but this one was like wide barreled. I don't know where they got this thing. And they converted it into a bong, and they were like, well, you're going to smoke out of the Thunderdome. So it was like effectively a 1 liter hit inside this thing, 1 liter or more. And then, like, we did the whole school bus thing where it's like, hold until everybody goes around. So, like, I was at the time, like, running a bunch. I had incredible lung capacity and all this stuff. So I take this, like, crazy-ass hit off of this thing. I'm holding it for what seems like an eternity. And I let go of it. And then all of a sudden, I'm like, oh, my God. Like, I don't know what's going on. Like, my brain just went off, right?
Yeah.
It was just, like... I'd gone on, like... I was just sitting there. It felt like time had dilated. Everything was fucked up. And I kept... like my phone was dying, so I kept trying to go upstairs to plug in my phone, and I couldn't figure it out. Like, and so like I was supposedly running the same 30-minute loop for like 5 hours, just going upstairs over and over again, until my buddy was like, yo, what the hell are you doing eventually? And I was like, I'm trying to plug in my phone. He's like, dude, you did that like 3 hours ago. So I supposedly was just like climbing the 3 flights of stairs up to my room, and then just like hanging out there, and then walking back down and going back up and down.
You probably forgot. Like by the time you got up, you forgot what.
Yeah, it was all sorts of fucked up, right? And then I tried to go to bed at like 2 a.m, knowing full well I was the primary driver down to Florida at 4. So I try and go to bed at like 1 or 2 a.m, can't get to sleep because I can't tell whether I'm awake or dreaming because I'm all sorts of messed up. And I think I just laid there in bed for hours or maybe minutes. I don't know. And then I like my heart was like racing and slowing down. Like my whole body was shaking because I have low blood pressure and my blood pressure bottoms out. I guess when I smoke weed, it was all sorts of confusing.
That's a bad
and then
trip.
At 4 a.m, I got in a car, and then I drove us 18 hours to Florida. Like, and didn't realize I'd forgotten my driver's license until we got to Key West, and I was like trying to get into a bar, and I realized I didn't have a driver's license with me. Key Largo. So it was like all sorts of messed up, right? I get all sorts of fucking. It was the worst. I hated it, and ever since then, I don't do weed because it's like it's just a bad idea. It just feels terrible, and I'm scared of it, right? But then like I come back from like spring break and stuff, and I'm sitting with my roommates, and I'm like, yo man, like what the fuck was in that weed? Like what did I smoke? And he goes, my roommate, whose name I will not mention because he's a lawyer now.
Okay.
He was like, oh yeah, he's like, I keep all my weed in my old Adderall tin, so it was like dusted with Adderall. So it's like I smoked weed and Adderall in one night, and it was just a world-ending event. I was terrified, like I was confused. I did some dumb shit
Wow.
afterwards. Never again. That was it. That was it.
I mean, it's a good story. It's a great. It's a.
Fuck up.
Um, Man, I got sucked into your story because I had like two in my head, and then like it was kind of intense. Did you just before we change it into Mark, like what about the homework that you had to do at 4 a.m. When you got a hot box in your room? Were you able to do that or?
Yeah, I got it done. It was like I had to sort of like really figure it out, and I was like, it took me to like the last minute because it was just like some of the time was spent trying to like sober up, and it's like there was only it was basic. It was like the first problem set, so it was kind of like just a little bit of calculus, a little bit of like looking stuff up and putting stuff together, and it was stuff that I'd already done before, so it was fine. But it was like, man, I cannot focus or function, and it was just everything was just fried.
Yeah, no, I get it. Like I have a very low tolerance. I do smoke, every once in a while for sure. But I have a low tolerance, and it always surprised me. Like Mark has met this group of friends. He doesn't remember them, but not because we were drunk, but I don't think that you just introduced them. But when we were taking calc classes and everything, they were there, Mark, and it was this group of like 5 students from Kathmandu, from Nepal, and
Sure.
They were. I just cannot tell you, man. Like I used to go study with this guy Sumer, all the time because he used to ace the test all the time. But every time I went to study, like he had been working in a gas station 12 hours, no sleep. He would come home and smoke like 7 joints in a row, and then like study half the time that I would, and then get a higher grade than I would. And people can focus and function perfectly while but some people can't, and I can't.
It's person based. It's crazy, right?
Yeah.
Like I have one of my friends who's a pretty like well established like economist now. Like he's high all the time. Like but he's so much more functional when he's high than when he's not, because I think it like mellows out his anxiety and helps his brain focus, where my brain just like goes off the rails. Like
I'm with you, man. I enjoy it, but like I cannot even watch a movie that I really want to pay attention to. Like it's just to each their own. But what about you, Mark? Like, have you ever been in a situation where you feared for your life or your safety while intoxicated? I know you have been. Like, I know for a fact.
Oh, well, intoxicated. I've been the whole time. I'm thinking about. Well, I was drinking at the time. I had an example ready to go, but then I was thinking, well, I don't know how much I was drinking. I probably only had a couple beers, but I'll tell it anyways. But it was just like a week after, not even a week, like 4 or 5 days after my brother got stabbed, and we got the phone call saying like, come home. Well, basically, your brother's in the hospital. In fact, my brother Steve was the one that called me, and he's actually on my Facebook thing right now. I think he's on there anyways. He's the one that actually called me, and it was like 6 a.m, and I'm like, well, who the hell calls me at 6 a.m? You know what I mean? But I was in the military, so it was like I'm already on my way to freaking work, like doing that shit or doing whatever the hell I was doing. And I was like, I picked up the phone, and he's just like, yeah, your brother got stabbed, da 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 da, and it's like it's bad. He's in the hospital. I'm like, well, how bad? He's like, well, he got stabbed, and right in the back, and it looks like his spine. And I'm just like, all right, well, he's alive, so I guess in a week or two, I'll fucking fly out there. But then I realized like it was really bad, so I flew out there, and so it was like just a couple days afterwards, and I'm emotional because of my brother just got stabbed.
Right.
In the hospital ICU, lungs, blah blah blah. Anyways, I'm drinking beers out back with my brother Steve and my sister and a few other people. And we're just drinking, but I get a phone call. So I'm like, all right, cool. I got this girl calling me. So I walk out to get some privacy towards the street, and I sat on the sidewalk. I'm just sitting there chatting with her, like, hey, maybe I'll get laid or something while I'm here, And then all of a sudden, somebody just threw a fucking glass bottle at me. Like, boom, it just smashed all over, like, right next to me. And I look over, I'm like, there's nobody. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? Somebody just threw a goddamn fucking beer bottle at me, right? And I just, I'm all worked up anyways. So I get up, I start walking towards there, and I see this kid. He's not a kid. I mean, I was probably like, I was 20. I don't know how old I was. I was 25. No, I was 20. 23 or 22 at the time, and this kid was shorter than me by like he was probably up to here, like small, you know. And I look at him and I'm like, "Do you throw that glass bottle at me?" And he gets up and he's like, not even intimidated. He's like, "What are you gonna do about it?" Right? And he gets up and he starts coming towards me, and I'm thinking, "Wait, why the fuck is this kid that's smaller than me not afraid of me at all, like 0%?" So I start kind of backing up. I'm like, just backing up, like, whoa, whoa. And I see another kid across the street come running over, right? And as they both started running, I yelled for my sister and my brother, and I was like, "Jackie, get the fuck over here, da da da." And as soon as we were running, I see them reach behind them, and I was like, "This is why they're not scared. They had something." So I told my sister, I said, "Jackie, get in the fucking house. He's got a gun. He's got a gun." And I thought I was gonna get shot, so I was kind of scared, like, "Damn, I'm about to get shot."
Yeah.
Turns out they both had knives, so like they were gonna stab my ass. My sister called the cops, and their cops were there fast. They were there in like 60 seconds, but those kids booked it. They weren't really kids. They were probably like 19-year-old
Oh
dudes.
wow.
Damn, dude, that's intense.
Yeah, that is scary as fuck.
It was just weird because normally I wouldn't have given a fuck. Like, oh yeah, like why is this dude? Because I've been in a few fights before. It's like, why is this dude this big not afraid of me at all? Which was weird because at the time I was in the military, I was a little bit more bulky and like, and I'm just like, there's like something's not registering with this kid because I could pass. And what registered was he had weapons, you know, and he had his buddy that was across the street running towards me. So, but I'm glad I did back up because, but then when they started reaching behind their backs, I thought he had a gun. He was going to shoot me.
Yeah. No, good call there to back up.
That's it.
Damn.
I've had a few other times, but I can't think of drinking wise. Yeah, there's some sketchy shit out there, but like sleeping outside, sleeping outdoors, sleeping in Denver, getting stuck. Like,
Yeah, I had some of those. Like I had one that I was in Acapulco in Mexico, and I was with a bunch of my friends, and I was way young, getting drunk when I shouldn't have, and I got so drunk. I just remember we all got out of this nightclub like 5 a.m. or 4 a.m. Like it was still dark out, but it was about to be light up, and they all are like, "Okay, let's go home." I'm like, "No, I need to go to Walmart and buy a toothbrush," and obviously like it was the worst time just because I forgot my toothbrush. You know, like so I'm like, "You guys go ahead, and I'll catch up to you all." Just being stupid, and then buy the toothbrush. I think maybe I didn't even buy it, and then like I'm trying to get a taxi, and I don't know where we're staying, and my phone is dead. So I also have no money. So I just remember getting a taxi and telling that like, "You can have my phone if you take me to my hotel," and it was one of those Walkman, Sony Walkman. Like back in the day, was the iPhone 11 right now, you know, and like I just remember he's like, "God damn it, like another one of these drunk kids or what," and like he drove me for hours, man. Like does it look like here? And I'm like, no, I don't think so.
Oh, that's nice of that guy.
Yeah, I got very, very lucky, but I was scared that like I was so drunk that I thought it's like I'm either being kidnapped or like I don't know. I was just like tripping in my head, and he found the place and he left me there. You know, like he was a good guy. So I mean that would be the closest thing. I don't think that I've ever been. Well, no, I do have one. In Oklahoma, just real quick, I live next to this a ghetto a super sketchy guy, and one night that I was walking out to the liquor store after I had been drinking, Jesus, and anyways, like the point is, he jumped me, like he was just trying to scare me, and I didn't recognize him. And he's like, "Give me your money, give me your shit," and I freaked the fuck out, man. And I didn't even recognize him, and that was like the only time probably. But then he told me like, "I'm your neighbor. Do you remember me? I'm your homie." And he
was messing with you.
Yeah, and I remember even my English was not even good enough that he's like, "I'm your homie," and I'm like, "What does that mean?" Like, so, anyways,
that's pretty funny.
That's funny.
Damn,
Yeah.
I did have in Oklahoma. I had 45s shot through my apartment windows.
Dude, that is
through
such
the
a
fucking wall.
weird ghetto ass story, man. But like,
That shit was scary.
yeah, like I mean,
It was scary because I almost went out there to yell at him. I was telling Jen, I was like, "Dude, should I just go out there and yell at these fucking dudes?" Because it was like 1 o'clock in the morning. And I was like, nah, you know what? It's only Tuesday, but fuck it. Like, I'll just let it go. Party it, let them party. And then, like, at 2:30 in the morning or whatever, that's when the gunshots came. I was like, fuck, I'm glad I didn't go out there and yell at those fucking kids.
You could have
You would have
died.
gotten shot. Yeah, man. That's
It's
crazy.
still sketchy as hell. Like, literally where the bullets went through was, so Jen has weird things about her. She's probably listening, but, like, she sits in the same spot every day, like, religiously, like, on the counter, like, sort of, like, in the kitchen. She had the same spot. That's where she hung out. The bullet went right fucking there. Like, if she was there, because that's literally where she is for, like, half of the time she's at the house, she's on that spot. And the bullet went right there. I'm like, damn.
Yeah, that's
Kind of sketchy.
that counts as scary.
I was sober.
All right.
Yeah.
Let's see. I have to end the stream in 30 max.
Oh, I was gonna say because like I gotta hop off. This will be my last question. I gotta hop off.
Sounds good. Tell us about your last breakup talk. Who said what? Anything you wish you would have said?
Oh my god, that's a good one. Man, you don't realize how good your life is until you look back at all the shit that you went through to get there, right? Like, my wife is a saint. She's fantastic. Like, we get along very well. We both have like the same sort of just asshole sense of humor, but like, we get along really well. But my previous girlfriend was a little emotionally manipulative. So like,
Shit.
this is the last semester of college. Like, we'd been dating for like 2 years in college and stuff. And I remember one day we're just like sitting there. It's like, 4 months before college ends and whatever. And she goes, "So once we graduate, that's it." I was like, "What?" Like, what? And then it was just like, and I was like, "What do you mean?" She's like, "Well, you're going," like, I was going to Notre Dame. She was going to Rockefeller, New York. Like, we were going to be like far away, but I figured, we'd at least make it work a little bit, try. And she's like, "That's it." I was like, okay, like, have that conversation. It was very confusing. This is like February.
Right.
And then she proceeds to, for the next, 3 months, break up with me and, like, make up with me for, like, the next 3 months, like, routinely. It'd be, like, in the morning, we'd break up at night, and then we'd be back together the next morning. We'd be back together, like, for 3 or 4 months. And
Oh,
it's like,
my God.
I'm what my friends like to call a serial monogamist. Like, when I fall for somebody, I fall in deep and hard. Like, I'm there, I'm committed, that's it, right?
Right.
And so it was just like so emotionally exhausting. And I remember like this went on and on and on until graduation day. And it was like the night before graduation, like she texts me and goes, "I guess tomorrow's it then." And I'm like, "What?"
That's fucking weird, man.
And this is what happens. We graduate and stuff. And then she like walks up to me after graduation, gives me a hug, shakes my hand and goes, "I guess I'll see you sometime." And I'm like, "What the hell?"
That's rough.
I was emotionally like distraught. And it was like, and then I went off like with a buddy of mine. He got a grant to go study like in the French archives in Canada. And so like I was up in Canada with him for a month watching the World Cup, like hanging out, just having a blast, right? Come back. And she was still working at my college, and my college was in my hometown. And so, like, I just happened to be out visiting some friends of mine who were still there. And I walk into a bar, and it was the finals of the World Cup, and I'm, like, watching the World Cup finals with my friends. And she's sitting at the bar by herself watching it, and then, like, looks back, sees me, smiles, and is, like, all awkward about it. And I was about to just walk up to her and be like, "Hey, how's life? Like, what have you been up to?" And then just, like, peace out. And then, like, she, like, walks over to try and say something to me, thinks better of it, and walks out. And it's, like, the nicest thing she's ever done to me because I never spoke to her again. Like,
damn.
Well, okay, that's not true. I spoke to her again a couple months later because a friend of mine committed suicide, and it was, like, I was very close to him, and I was, like, very, like, distraught. And it was nice of her to call me and, like, just sort of talk through that. But because she knew him as well. But it's just kind of like...
Dude.
Damn, it was like emotionally exhausting. I was so it took me
no shit
a long time to recover from that. And
dude, I'm sorry. Like that is freaking brutal. I don't even know.
Yeah, much happier. I made the right choice.
Dude, for sure, for freaking sure. That's yeah. I have nothing to say to that. Thanks for sharing, man.
we could probably do a whole podcast on like these horrible breakups and shit. Like how fucked up like we were, especially as a younger kid. Like, damn, that shit really hurts you, you
Oh,
know?
for sure.
Yeah, it's scarring. It's scarring, man.
Dude,
I've been there, man. Like, it's like, what the fuck? Like, my heart was fucking broken. Now I have no heart, so it's not a big deal.
Oh, yes, that explains a
Like,
lot.
now it doesn't matter whatsoever. But back in the day, I was like, damn, my heart is freaking broken.
Do you want to answer, Mark?
I had to double check with my girlfriend to see who my last girlfriend was. I was like, who was I dating before you? she thinks it's one person, and she's like, well, there was that one person in between. I'm like, I don't know who the fuck that was. I mean, I'm in between. I don't know.
Mark was a player.
Yeah, he is, man.
But the very last, I have a couple of good stories, but I'll give you the one that pertains to this because it was, I think, the last one before. I broke up with her. Invited her to a bar near her house because I knew it would be close to her house. She'd be good to go if she had to go. And, you know, I had a beer or two. Then I told her, I was like, "Hey, I think we need to break up. Like, I don't want to be with you anymore. Like, there's just something off, you know." And then I'm just like, and I just went on. And then I told her, I said, "Well, I think that you're into girls." I was like, I'm pretty sure you're not into dudes, you're into girls. So like, I think that we gotta break it off because like our sex was like non-existent. It was terrible. And like, it was like, what the fuck, you know? And so I was just like, I can't have any of that. And then she got pretty pissed because she was apparently not into girls. She was stuck in bed. But that's as far as I'll go with that. She was just terrible. Like, it was so bad. Like, I cannot have a relationship like this.
That is such a douchey thing. I'm pretty sure you're into girls. So we need to finish.
I did. I told her that. I was like, I think that you're into girls. Like, maybe you should think about that next time you try to have sex with somebody. You know, try a girl. Maybe you'd like it better. I don't know.
That's awesome.
But that's not even my worst story. But that's the story that pertains to this.
Yeah. No, and just to finish the stream and everything. Same. I think the most brutal one I had, and it was just because I was not. But the girl that I was moving to the U.S. for, again, she was older than me and everything, and it's just you know the story, Mark. But Roger, I don't want to keep you long. So long story short, I met this girl in Cancun. She was in Oklahoma. That's how I ended up going to Oklahoma. And there was this dance that we did for a while. We were convinced we were going to do it. And right when I got my student visa, like everything and ready, we broke right after I moved in and it was just because I was just not mature enough, man. So like I wish I would have had like the I don't know, maybe you guys have had those breakups, maybe you haven't. But that's the only breakup I've had where like I wish I would have done things differently. Where like in a way I wish I would have had the balls to tell her, "You fucking bitch! Like I'm moving to another country and now you were breaking up with me." But in a way also like I wish I would have had at the same time go back in time and be like, "Dude, you need to be more mature. You need to not be." I think I was jealous of her past because again she was like 6 years older. I was 18. She was 24. And for some reason, back in the day, that used to mess up with me, which is so stupid to think about now. But at that age, you just don't know any better, man. Anyways.
So I had this long discussion with somebody about just, you know, life in general, right? There's nothing in my past that I've done that I like really regret because every choice I've made has gotten me where I am now, right? And there's just no point in regretting what's in the past.
Right.
And think about it this way, right? One, never move to another country for somebody you're dating. That's just... Come on.
Fucking bananas.
Come on. But on top of that is like, you know, if you didn't move to Oklahoma, you wouldn't have like, you know, done your work here. You wouldn't be living here right now. You wouldn't have your son. You wouldn't know like, you know, Mark and I guess me at this point. Like, it's just kind of everything works out.
Oh, for sure.
And like, you know, the point of my story was, you know, because of having I've only dated 3 girls in my life and all 3 of them were long relationships, right? First girl I dated was for a year and a half and now she's very happily in a committed relationship with a woman. And, you know, that just, we met in high school and we just sort of had to figure out our lives and stuff. I wasn't willing to talk to my parents about not wanting an arranged marriage and being like, you know, traditionally Indian. And she emotionally needed something I couldn't give. The last girlfriend that I had before my wife was obviously like she had some emotional issues, and I at the time had some emotional issues and stuff. But because of those relationships, I know that like the shit that my wife puts up with right now, damn saint, she's a fucking saint.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Because I can be a little obnoxious at times, right? And it's just kind of like we found a rhythm, and she can be obnoxious too, right? It's
Right.
kind of a
No, I get
but
you.
I know what the world looks like if she weren't there in it.
Yeah.
Therefore, well, I'm happy where I am now. It's kind of
No, that's
I've been
great,
happy
man.
for a decade. It's a long time.
Dude, that is. I don't think a lot of people in the world can say I've been happy for a decade. So good for you, man.
Damn.
That takes some mental
Yeah.
discipline and will and everything. Good for you, man. And I like what you said. If you don't mind me, man, because I know you had to go, but just because I have a very close friend of mine who Mark knows, Rohit. Mark, we jumped with him on the airplane.
Yeah.
But he had an arranged. I should have not said his name. So
First name. Yeah, at least was only first.
yeah. I mean,
There's in a country of 1 billion people, I guarantee there's like enough Rohits to fill the United States.
yeah,
So
yeah.
continue.
Fair enough. Well, like I was just curious as to. I'm just gonna say it. I don't care. I feel like he was completely Americanized. Same thing. He's been here since he was little, and I never saw him going through with the arranged marriage type of thing. I cannot speak for him. I think he seems very happy. He has two little girls now. He truly seems very happy, and I think he's a better man because of that arranged marriage. But it was my perception that he took that option in a time that he was going through a dark time kind of thing. And I just kind of took. I know this is kind of a weird question to ask or whatever, but did you? So just to confirm, you didn't go that route, right? Like, or was yours an arranged marriage? No, it wasn't.
No. My wife is a little white girl from Colorado. I
Okay.
don't think that would have worked.
Right. So kind of that. What I wanted to ask you is like, did you ever consider it? Like, I mean,
So, I never really thought about not having an arranged marriage until like, almost high school. But at the same time, it's like it never was something that made sense to me or something I wanted because much like, anybody else who Americanizes or, has lived here for a long time, I'm a very different person than what most Indian people my age would be, right? My cultural experiences are different. My personality is different, all that fun stuff. And my sister had an arranged marriage, and that was an interesting situation. And so, I mean, they're still married. That's an interesting situation, and it just wasn't for me. My parents. It's an immigrant problem, right? Immigrants move to a country and they get trapped in the time period that they left their former country, right?
yeah.
To my parents, India and like their household was always 1994 India. Right, India is not what it looks like now than what it did in 1994.
Oh, I believe it.
But my parents were always like arranged marriage. Like I grew up in a very religious household, and like my parents are very religious people. But my dad is also a scientist
Okay.
to a degree. Like he's a computer scientist now, but he was like finishing his PhD in nuclear physics. Like he's a very
wow.
like deep thinker, and he's a scholar of like many religions, and that like he's studied them all. He's a very devout Hindu, but like he's well versed.
Wow.
And so the mistake that he made was he taught me to think critically about everything, right? Like I will question the hell out of everything. I never take anything for granted.
Good
So
for
for a
you, man.
while, it was easy for me to like go along with the arranged marriage train, but then I started questioning it. And the debate about like, what my life would look like started when I was 13, right? And so, like, I ended up having that debate and fight with my parents from 13 to 23, 24 until they met my girlfriend at the time, wife now, right? And so to me, it was just sort of like, logically speaking, based on what I knew about myself, what I knew about other Indian kids who grew up here, and what I knew Indian people of my age looked like that are in India, like it would have been it would have been more difficult for me culturally to adjust to somebody from India than it is for my family to adjust to somebody from here, right?
Right.
because they've had 20 years to get adjusted to people from here.
Of
It would
course.
have that person would have to adjust to somebody from here within like minutes of meeting me, which is impossible. I'm also obnoxious. So it's a weird like cultural problem, and it was very emotionally like difficult, and having to like I had to carefully plan it out, and it's like I had to think it through, have decisions like made, arguments to have, like all that stuff. And luckily, my older sister is a saint. She fought a lot of battles for me, and she was able to sort of have my back in that when you're emotional you can't make a sane argument, but she was able to be my like sane buffer, and that my parents would call her and bitch about stuff, and I would call her and bitch about stuff, and she could be an intermediary. And without my sister I wouldn't be who I am today, and
Right.
that's a fact. She knows it, and I'm indebted to her for everything, right? But what's really, really funny that cracks me up is that my parents are kind of also like very well respected in their Indian community in southern Pennsylvania, and like from my cultural background as a Telugu person, there's like thousands, and I mean that, thousands of Telugu families there with kids who grew up like me and stuff. And my parents were always the people that their parents sort of turned to for like advice and stuff, because my dad's a very well thought out, like very reasonable individual.
must
My
be.
mom is as well. Like he's respected. So when his kid did this thing that was like culturally shocking, right? And the fact that it took him 6 months to actually speak to me again after I told him about, he emailed me because it was weird, right? My dad and I, he's kind of an introvert. He's weird. He's like a blend between an introvert and an extrovert, and it's very strange. But he emailed me, and I was like, I remember sending that email to my sister, being like, "What the hell is this?" And my sister was like, "Well, he's processing, right?" And he wanted to put it down in words so that he could reread it, so he didn't say anything that he would regret. And I'm like, that's incredibly like,
Yeah, man.
that's
I mean,
so controlled, and like I love that, right? It was great because
Well,
I was able to sort of respond in a similar manner.
and it shows
And then
incredible emotional growth and maturity from your dad too, man. That's intense.
he's a cool dude. He's weird, but he's cool.
Yeah.
And so it's like, after I did this and stuff, like all of these other kids that I remember growing up with who were older than me started coming out of the woodwork and contacting my sister to be like, how did your brother do this thing? Like, how did he have this conversation with them? And now they're all married to like, the person of their choice who happened to be like, Asian or white or whatever. And they have kids and stuff, and they're all happy. And so like, I like to joke that I blew open those cultural doors for like hundreds of people to go off and do whatever they wanted to. And that was because my parents put me in a situation where I could question it and make my choices, and then feel confident enough to sort of stick by those choices, because I'm happy. I can't imagine, I mean, maybe I could be happy in an arranged marriage, and I'm sure your friend might be happy in his arranged marriage, but it's like, in the end, this is a choice that I made for myself, and I'm happy that I got the opportunity to do so, because it sort of speaks to a little bit to the American experience, and also the fact that this is how my parents raised me. So any choices I make is directly their fault.
Dude,
I tell my dad this all the time, and like in the beginning it used to like piss him off.
Yeah.
But like now I think he gets the joke, and it's true, right? It's
well, that's what I was gonna say. Like, you're telling as a joke with a little bit of truth, and he has to see it that way eventually, right? So,
Yeah.
But dude, thank you for being open about that. And just to close this, dude, I seriously enjoyed this conversation.
This is a blast. It was fun.
Yeah, man. Like I appreciate everything from the COVID to the open questions. Thank you, Mark, for bringing Rajan to the conversation. Thank you for you being open, and hopefully we can do this again with more people, man. It was a good time.
Sounds good, man. It was great chatting with you.
Yeah.
Nice meeting you.
Yeah,
Likewise.
appreciate it.
All right,
I'll
you
talk to you
guys have a
Bye.
good one. Bye.
See ya.